Hey, welcome back. In this video, we're gonna build an advanced AI fitness assistant that can talk to us, learn our goals, and generate a workout and diet plan in real time. Let me give you a quick demo of the end result. First, we have a beautiful landing page where we introduce our platform with a really nice hero section. We have some example programs that are generated by other users, and a button that will take us to the generate program page. Just before I start the call, notice how our AI assistant will ask me all these details that you see on the screen. Now, these details are important so that it can build a personalized program and not just a random one. So it'll generate programs depending on my age, if I have any injuries, allergies, what is my fitness level, etc. Now let's give it a go and see how it'll end up.
Hello, Barack. I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm here to help you build a personalized diet and weekly gym workout plan that fits your lifestyle. I'll need to gather some details from you to create something that's truly effective. Are you ready to get started?
Yes, absolutely. Let's go ahead and get started.
Great. Could you please tell me your age and any existing injuries or health conditions?
I am 23 years old and I don't really have any injuries or health conditions to consider.
Got it. Could you tell me your height and weight next?
Let's say I'm 65 kilograms and 172 meters. Or I should say 1.72 meters. I'll just do a quick correction right there.
Perfect. Thanks for that correction. Now, what's your primary fitness goal?
Can you give me some examples? What do you mean by this?
Of course, your fitness goal could be something like weight loss, muscle gain, improving endurance, increasing flexibility, or maintaining overall health. It really depends on what you're aiming to achieve with your fitness routine.
Alright, so let's go ahead and just say muscle gain.
Great choice. How many days per week do you plan to work out?
I think I can hit the gym for 5 days a week.
Sounds good. Could you tell me your current fitness level? Beginner, intermediate, or advanced?
Let's say it's advanced.
Awesome. Lastly, do you have any dietary restrictions or food preferences that we should be aware of?
No, thankfully, not at all.
Thank you for sharing this information. I'm creating your personalized fitness and nutrition plan right now. You'll be redirected to your profile screen. Just refresh the page in a few seconds to view your complete program. We hope that this program will help you to reach your goals. Have a good day.
So here we can see once our assistant gathers all the details from us, it'll generate a program in the background. And once it is ready, we will be redirected to the profile screen where we can see the generated workout and diet plan. You can create multiple programs, but only the latest one will be active. And of course, to be able to generate programs, you have to be logged in. And we have 3 different options. Log in with GitHub, Google, and email password. So this is the entire application that we're gonna build and deploy at the end of this video. It might look simple, but there is a lot of different things that you will learn from this one single tutorial. We will implement a ton of different automations. And if you're wondering what they are, I'll quickly walk you through it and then we will jump into the coding. So the first step is to start the call. And this will happen when users click to the start call button. AI will say hi to the user and gather some information like their age, height, fitness level, injuries, and so on. Then it'll feed all this data to an LLM like Gemini AI, which is completely free to get started with. And once the program is generated by our LLM, it'll be saved to our database. And then the user will be redirected to the profile screen to be able to see the generated program. And as of 2025, AI just keeps getting better every single day. And seems like these kinds of applications will be in demand. And this is a perfect tutorial tutorial to learn all these technologies in a single project. When it comes to the tech stack, we will use React with Next.js, Clerk for authentication, Vapi as the voice agent platform, Convex for the database, and Gemini as our LLM. All of these technologies and services are completely free to get started with, so you don't really have to pay anything to be able to follow along with me. I hope you will enjoy this entire course, and just to help out the algorithms, feel free to like, subscribe, and add a random comment. Thanks for watching, and let's get started. This course doesn't cost you anything, and the source code of this project will be free in the description. If you'd like to support my work and unlock some premium content, I have a Udemy course with over 100 hours of content that you can enroll in and get access to the premium content with the discount link in the description. Alright, so to get started with, I have created an empty folder on my desktop called CodeFlex. This is the name that I came up with. You can call this anything that you wish. Just go ahead and open this up in VS Code. Alright, so first things first, we would like to initialize a Next.js application. So I'll say npx create next app. Normally I would say latest, but since I want you to be able to follow along with this video, even if you're watching this a couple of months or even years later. So let's go with a specific version, which is the latest one that I have currently, right? At the time that I am recording this video, this is the latest version that we have. It is 15.2.4. Alright, so if you go with this version, in a couple of months or years, this should still be working the same, and we would have the exact same code base without any issues, hopefully. And I want this application to be created under the current folder. So I'll just put dot at the end. Then we need to answer a couple of different questions. We'd like to go with TypeScript, ESLint. Basically, I'll go with the defaults. Here you can see. And this will generate a basic Next.js application. Now we are using ESLint specifically. This is my personal choice so that we can have some strict rules in our code base that will force us to be consistent so that we don't really generate any errors or inconsistencies in our code. Alright, so it looks like we're getting all of our dependencies. I'll say npm run dev, and we're going to get this boilerplate Next.js application. Let me zoom out a little bit. Alright, this is what we have. So in this section, I'd like to just set up my code base. Let's say we would like to visit the source folder. Under the app, we have the home page, right? I'd like to delete everything that I have. I'll say RAFCE. And for this snippet, I am using this extension. If you don't have it already, go ahead and install that. And for Tailwind, we'll be using the IntelliSense. So you should have this extension as well so that you can get this kind of auto completion highlight. That's really, really convenient. Once you have done this, you should be able to say RAFCE. Let's call this as homepage. Save, and I'd like to create two different pages. One for my profile page. Here is how that works in Next.js. Let's say profile page.tsx. And then I'll create the generate program page, and then I'll explain. Say generate program page. Let's do the same thing for this one. Profile page. So in Next.js, if you want to create pages, you should visit the app folder and create folders for them. So we have profile, and you need to create this special file called page.tsx. And in the same way, this is what we have done. Now let's save and try to see this in action. This is the home page that we had previously. And let's say profile. All right, this is what we got. And let's say generate program. All right, so it looks like everything is working as expected. Now, the other thing that I'd like to do, just delete everything that we have in the public folder. We don't really need these SVGs. What we need are a couple of different images that I have prepared for you already. Go ahead and find this link. This is a GitHub link that you can find in the description for absolutely free. At the time I'm recording this video, it is private, but while you're watching this, it should be free. And we have 4 different images and 2 different files that we're gonna get into. So go ahead and download this and these 3 images. So we have the first one, second one, and the third one. These are alternatives, but this is the one that I'll be using personally. So what I'll be doing is to copy all of them that I already have on my machine and paste it into the public folder. All right. So this is another setup that we have done. Let's go and try to set up Shadcn. So I'll visit ui.shadcn.com. Now, why are we using this? If you have never used this, basically they have a bunch of different really cool components that we can copy and paste into our application. So if you wanted to build something like this, you don't really need to write any code. Just go ahead, copy this code and paste it. It should work out of the box. All right, now there's more to it, but I'd like to keep it simple and show you as we use it. And they have a bunch of different themes. We're gonna get into it. First, visit the documentation, installation, and specifically Next.js as our framework. Let's copy this, open up our terminal, maybe kill the app with Control-C, and paste this in. They're gonna ask us a question. I'll go with neutral, doesn't really matter because we're going to change it. All right, now we got some kind of like a description that says, it looks like you are using React 19. Some packages may fail to install due to peer dependency issues in npm. So we can go with use force or use legacy peer deps. This should fix the issues, right? All right, now it looks like Shadcn has been set up. I'll say npm run dev. And what Shadcn does, it will create a components JSON file that's really for configuration and for aliases. If you don't know what that means, I can explain later in the video. And then it created a lib folder with utils.ts file that has a really useful function that Shadcn uses behind the scenes. So you don't really need to worry about these. So it does a bunch of different things, I believe. Actually, you can see it from the terminal, but since I cleared that, it's just gone. All right, so anyways, we got also the global.css file has been updated. So these are all the CSS variables that Shadcn uses. Now, by default, if you take a look at it, their theme is this theme, right? The dark and white, or I should say the dark mode. If you wanted to, you can use this blue theme, green theme, or any of these. What I have done is to use this kind of a theme specifically. And to be able to build this, I have created a special file. So go ahead and copy this entire file from the GitHub repo. Then delete everything that you have here in this file and paste this in. Now, what we have here is exactly the same kind of structure. The only thing that I have done is to change the values, or the colors, I should say. Now we have this kind of cyberpunk theme. And at the very bottom, I have added some animations that we're gonna get into. All right, for now, I'm not gonna explain this, but once we use them, I promise I'll explain. And let me actually put a to-do. I'll say explain this because you promised, just in the first section. All right, so this is what we have. I think that's gonna be it for the simple setup that we have. Maybe in the next section, we can set up the authentication. So I'll see you there. So for the authentication, we're gonna be using Clerk. There will be a link in the description that you can follow and sign up. It's completely free. You don't really need to pay anything. And it's really generous. So I already have an account that I'm gonna visit my dashboard in a second. But if you have never used Clerk previously, let me pretty quickly explain. So it is one of the most comprehensive user management platform, and this is completely true. So they have a bunch of different components, from manage your account to update your profile to sign in, sign up components. And we're going to be using something similar to this one. And some really good companies, or I should say production ready companies, are using them. Previously they had the companies, but now they put the SDKs. All right, that's fine. Let's go ahead and visit the dashboard. And these are the previous projects that I have built. You know, this is the test one. I was building it just to test this out before recording this video. but we're gonna start from scratch in this tutorial. So I'll say create an application. Let's call this as Code Flex YouTube, I'll say. For the sign-in options, I'll be using email, Google, and GitHub. If you wanted to, you can add more, but I think that's enough for this project, and I'll say create the application. This is what our users will see. Now they're gonna give us all the SDKs, but we would like to go with Next.js. Let's follow along these steps, which are, I believe, just 4 steps only. So I copied the very first command, open up my terminal, kill the app, and paste this in. Now while this is installing, we can take a look at the next step, which is to set up our .env file, where we have our environment variables. I will create a .env file in the root. Maybe let's call this as .env.local. It doesn't really matter, but we'll be using Convex as our database, so it's really important to have it as .env.local. So I would say go ahead and create this file and paste this in. Then for the next step, we would like to create a middleware.ts file. Now, where are we going to create this? They say you can create this under the root of your project, but if you're using the source directory, it should be inside that folder. So we're using source directory, right? We would like to create it under the source, let's say middleware.ts, and we're going to paste this in. So this is a file that Next.js uses to be able to handle the authentication correctly. We're going to update this in a couple of minutes. For now, let's leave it as it is. Then the next step is to wrap our entire application under the layout with the Clerk provider component. So I'll copy this, go into the app under the layout, and this is the entry point for our entire application. So I'll paste this in, let's wrap everything with it, and import the Clerk provider. Now what we have just done is to wrap our entire application with the Clerk provider so that in our entire application we can use Clerk easily, right? This is what we have just done, right? Behind the scenes, our application should be able to consume all the components and everything that Clerk provides. Now let's save and visit the homepage. I'd like to show you a couple of different components that Clerk gives you. So I'll say, give me a sign in button. I'll visit homepage. All right, looks like I need to start my application. Let's say npm run dev and clear the terminal. So we have a sign in button, even though it doesn't really look like a button, but I promise it is a button. So let's click to it. It will take us to this sign in page that we have, right? This is the project name that we have and sign in options. We can visit the sign up page as well. We can create an account, which is something that we'll do in a second. So you can take a look at all the components coming from Clerk. We'll be using bunch of them. For now, let's go ahead and maybe delete this one. We don't really need it. I'll just say home page. But what we need is a sign in and sign up pages. And I will create this under a group route, or route group, I should say. I'll say auth, and it's really important to put them under the, the brackets so that this is not really in the URL. We'll have sign in, and let's copy this, paste this once again. I'll say sign up. Now at first it'll look a little bit weird, but follow along with me. It'll make sense, I promise. We're gonna go into the sign in folder and create another one with this structure. I'll say open this up, close this off, and ... sign in. Then we'll create this special file as always. Let's say rafce, and I'd like to call this as sign in, if I can type, sign in page. All right, let's do the exact same thing for the sign up. Open this up, close this off, ... sign up page.tsx. I'll say rafce, and this will be sign up page. Now I'd like to save these files and I'll change the content. So we're gonna have a main tag, and this will be really simple. All we want to have a sign in component coming from Next.js, and this could be self-closed. I'll put some classes just to center this. I'll say flex, height, screen, let's say width will be full, item centered, let's say items centered, and justify centered. I'll copy the exact same thing, paste it here, and this should be not sign in and sign up, I believe. So why cannot we get this? All right, so it should be sign up and sign in, just like what we have here. And one last step that we need to visit will be under the .env.local file, and we're gonna set up our URLs. So I'll say next public clerk sign in URL. It'll be /signin, and same for the sign up. So just make sure that you have these in the exact same way, no any typos. Now let's visit /sign in. Alright, so I'll just zoom out. This is what we have in our sign in page. Let's visit the sign up. This is what we got in the sign up page, and we can toggle between these pages with this link, right? The other thing that I'd like to build is maybe, let's go ahead, make the profile page to be protected, because currently, even if I am not logged in, I can still visit this page, which is not something what we want, right? And we shouldn't be able to visit the generate program page if we are not authenticated. For this, the middleware file comes into play. I'll close everything and visit the middleware.ts file. And let's say we are gonna have this const is protected route. Just follow along with me. We'll say create route matcher. This will be a list or an array. We'll say we would like to protect the generate program page as well as the profile page. Then we're gonna go into Clerk middleware. Let me put it above. All right, so we're gonna go here. I'll say async. We'll get the auth and request. We'll just say if is protected route and put the request in it. And I'll say, in this case, just go ahead, protect this route. Now let's test this out. All we have done is to protect both of these files if user is not authenticated. Let's refresh. Now it took us to sign in page, right? Let's go ahead, visit localhost profile. So there's no way that you can visit this page unless you're authenticated. And I'd like to sign up with my GitHub account. All right, now that I'm authenticated, I can visit the profile page, and I can visit the generate program page as well. But now how do we log out? Well, we can visit any page. I'll go to the home page, and there is a component called, I believe, sign out button. So if you click to it, you should be signed out in a second. Well, I'll click to it once again. Why this does not work? So it actually worked, all right. So basically we display this no matter what happens. But what I'd like to say, only display this if user is signed in. So you can basically import this component and read this as an English sentence, right? We say if user is signed in, show them a sign up button. In the exact same way, we can copy this and we can say if user is signed out, just go ahead and display them a sign in button. And let's close this off correctly. Now, since we are signed out, let's refresh. All right, so why this is the case, maybe we should say this is gonna be a client component. Is this the case? All right. Now we are unauthenticated and we see this button that says sign in. Let's go ahead and sign in. Then we should be able to see the sign out button. If we visit our dashboard, we should be able to see the latest user that has just been created. All right, so that's gonna be it for the authentication setup as well. I know that we are going a little bit slowly, but I just really want you to make sure that everyone is following along without getting bored or without encountering any issues. So with that, that's gonna be it for this section. Now it is time to set up our AI voice assistant. For this, we're gonna be using Vapi. There will be a link in the description that you can go ahead and sign up. It's again completely free to get started with. You don't really need to pay anything. And it is the best platform for voice AI agents. And you're gonna see how easy it is to get started with. So you can click to this button and actually test this out. I'd like to skip that for now because we're gonna build our own in a second. So I'm assuming you have already signed up, or actually let's go ahead and do it together. In this Chrome account, I didn't really sign up. So I'll use my Google account. Let's go with this one. All right, so we can just set up these questions or just answer them pretty quickly. We're gonna get into the dashboard in a second. First, I'd like to go ahead and visit the documentation, quick start, and we'll be using this in web, right? So I will click to the web call quick start. Let's copy the package command. I'll be using npm and we'll be using the web SDK. So I will open up my terminal, maybe kill the app. These are some errors that we got previously, but looks like we have solved them. Let's paste this in. This is gonna get the SDK that we'll be using later in the video. Now what I'd like to do, visit the dashboard and try to create an assistant. You can go with some of the templates. I will go ahead, create a blank template, and I'll just say code flags, let's say assistant. Create assistant. For now, keep it as it is. Then we're gonna create what we call a workflow. Now you might be asking, what is a workflow in the first place? Basically, it is a couple of different steps that our AI assistant will follow. So let's go ahead and try to create our very first workflow. You can call this anything. I'll call the same name called code flags, and the AI assistant will be this one that we have just generated. So this AI assistant will follow this workflow. Let's say create this, where we will get a really cool canvas and we can put or we can set up our steps. So once we start the call, we want our AI assistant to say hello to the user. Let's click to this, select exact, and we want to say this exact thing. So we'll say hello and whatever the username is. We can use a variable for this. So just go ahead, open this up and close this off, put full underscore name in it. So we're going to be sending this full name as a variable from our code later in the video. So we'll say hello, whatever the username is, and then let me copy this, paste it, and then I'll walk you through it. So we will say, I hope you're doing well. Today I'm here to help you build a personalized diet and weekly gym workout plan that fits your lifestyle. And we'll just say, we need to gather some details from you. Are you ready to get started? And in the next step, we'll like to gather some information from the user. So I'll say add a gather step, and we're gonna add our fields. So we'll like to get the age from the user. For the description, we can say customer's age for appropriate exercise intensity. So this is the description that we give to AI so that it knows why this is needed. Let's say this output is required and type will be string. Let's say save, but we want to collect more fields. Age itself is not enough. So I'll say we would like to get the weight. And for the description, I'd like to copy this part and paste this in. And I'll say this output is required. And for the description, you can put something else, but it should be something similar to this one, right? So that AI knows why are we getting the weight. Let's do the same thing for other fields, like height. Once again, I'll get the exact same description. Oops, I'll put it right here. This should be required. So if user doesn't provide these values, AI will ask over and over again, or maybe AI will say, hey, you need to provide these values so that I can create a personalized plan for you. Then let's ask for any injuries that that the customer might have. So I'll say any existing injuries or health conditions to consider. This is also required. We'll add a couple of different fields like your fitness goal, right? Do you want to lose fat or do you want to gain muscle, so on and so forth. This is my description. I'll say this output is required. Then I'd like to have the workout days. So how many days can you dedicate for working out? All right, this will be required as well. Let's add two different fields. Your current fitness level, right? And we can say, are you beginner, intermediate, or advanced? All right, this will be required. And one last field, which is going to be the dietary restrictions. So we'd like to check if user has any food allergies or any preferences. And then I'll say this field is required. Now, once we gathered all these information, we would like to send a request to our endpoint so that we can generate a program with the help of AI. Now, just before we move forward, I'd like to give you a quick workflow that should happen. All right, so this is the end result that we're gonna have. Basically, user and AI will talk, right? The AI will gather information like age, weight, and all the fields that we just put. Then once we gather everything, AI will send a request to Gemini to generate a diet and workout plan for this user specifically. Then it'll save this to the database, and then I'll just say thank you to the user, right? And then user will be redirected to the home screen or the profile screen. Sounds complicated, but it's not that much. So let's go ahead and try to complete this workflow. Once we gather the information, we would like to send an API request. So I'll add this step. For the endpoint, for now we don't really have any endpoints. I'll just say HTTP localhost. This is completely fake. This is not going to work. For now, just follow along with me. This is just to have something. And for our endpoint, we can say Vapi, let's say generate program. Later in the video, we're going to update this. Let's say the method will be post, and we will have a couple of different fields under the body. But as I said, this will be empty for now. Let's say save. So it says this requires HTTPS. That's correct because this has to be an actual URL. For now, we can cheat it like this. All right, so it looks like we have some errors. I don't know. Maybe just grab anything. We can put something absolutely random. For now, just put HTTPS, let's say example.com. And maybe I can zoom in. Let's say Vapi generate program. And then I'll add one last step that will say thank you to the user. And let me copy and paste my prompt. I'll say exact. So we will say thank you for sharing this information. I am creating your personalized plan and you will be redirected to profile screen. Just refresh the page, so on and so forth, and have a good day. So let's save this. This is the entire workflow that we will have, and we will implement this maybe a little bit later in the video. Now that we got the workflow, we have an assistant. We can go ahead, copy this workflow ID. I will have my .env and put my environment variable. So I'll go below to the Clerk environment variables. I'll say next public Vapi, let's say workflow underscore ID. Paste this in and I'll duplicate this. This time it will be for the API key. So say Vapi API key. Let's generate this one as well under the organization settings. Let's say API keys. We can get the public one, copy this, and put it right here. We'll be using these values. And let's actually use this one immediately. I'll go under the source, under the library. I will say vapi.ts. We're going to basically initialize an instance. Let's say import Vapi from this SDK, and I'll say export const Vapi new. Let's call this process.env and the name that we just have for this API key. Let's copy it and paste it. Now TypeScript says, I don't really know if this is undefined or not, right? Maybe you don't really have a value for this. We can say, don't worry, we have it already. So I'll just put an exclamation point. Now it is happy with us. Or you can say as string. So this is how you can typecast it. Alright, so now that we have set this up, later in the video, we'll be using this variable or this object to be able to check if user started the call, if user is talking, if AI is talking, if we are getting messages to display them in the UI. We'll be using this a lot, but that'll be a little bit later in the video. So that's gonna be it for the configuration. We have just set it up our very first workflow, right? We're gonna get into it. I wanted to introduce you at the beginning of this video so that you know really how that works. We are gathering the information from the user, and like this is not us, but this is the AI, but we just set that up, right? Then once we get the info, we'll just send a request to Gemini to generate a diet and workout plan for this user for completely free. Because as you might know, Gemini is free to use. Then once we got the plan, we're going to save this to the database so that we can display it in the user profile page. And then finally, we'll say thank you, and we would like to hang up the call. I think that's the step that I forgot. Let's go ahead under the workflows. We have this one, and once we say thank you, we would like to hang up the call. Say end, just like that. And then we can save. All right. So once again, we're going to get into this later in the video. That's going to be it for this section. Next, we can set up our database. Now it is time to set up our database, and for this we're going to be using Convex, which is not just a database but a complete backend as a service, and it has some really cool features such as type safety with the help of TypeScript out of the box, and it is real time. So go ahead and create an account. Once again, it's completely free to get started with. You can have up to 20 projects without paying anything, and to be honest, I am in the free plan as well. So let me go ahead and log in with my GitHub account. So here we go. I will create a new project, but instead of creating it from here, we are going to create it from our terminal. So I'll open up my terminal. I killed my app. Let's say maybe run our Next.js application first, and I'll create another terminal, and we're going to say npx, or maybe first, sorry, we'll say npm install convex. First, we have to install it, and then we can clear our terminal. We can say npx convex dev. Now, what this will do is to ask you a couple of questions, right? We would like to create a new project, and if you are running this for the very first time, maybe it'll tell you something like log in. Once you are logged in, you'll get to see this question. So I would like to create a new project, and we can call this anything. I'll say CodeFlex tutorial YouTube. All right, I'll choose the cloud deployment. So that means they're going to deploy this entire backend for us without we doing anything. All right, now this has done a couple of different things. So if you visit your .env file, you should be able to see that we got two different environment variables, right? So we got the deployment name as well as the convex URL. We're going to be using them, right? So I'll delete these comments just to keep it simple. Then what we got is this special convex folder. So everything that is related to convex will go under this folder so that we can interact with our database, just do a bunch of different things that we're going to get into. Now that we have done this, let's try to connect our Convex database to our Clerk authentication. Let's visit the documentation. I'll say docs.convex.dev authentication with Clerk. So we have a bunch of different steps. Let's follow them. Now we have already created an application. Let's go ahead and visit that one, and under the configure as well as JWT templates, we would like to create a new template with Convex. So we're going to copy this and just say save. The next step is to create a file. So they say copy it, save it. Maybe you cannot see it from the image, but I promise this is what they say. We would like to create an auth config.ts file under the Convex. I'll say auth config.ts file. I'll just paste what I copied so that I don't really lose it. Copy this file, paste this in, and we're going to update this part with what we got above. So here I'll delete everything, paste this in. This is what we have. Then the next step is to, let's see, it says get your Clerk API keys. We already have done this. We need to create a provider so that in our entire application, we can use Convex with Clerk. Now this is for React. We are using Next.js, which is going to have a little bit different variation. And let me walk you through it. So I will kill everything, go under the source. We would like to create a provider. So say providers, and specifically a Convex Clerk provider.tsx. So we're going to wrap our entire application with this provider so that we can use Clerk with Convex, right? And we're going to have a couple of different imports. Let me copy and paste. This is what we have. We'll be using all of them. And we would like to mark this with use client directive because this would be running on the client. We would like to create a Convex instance. And if you take a look at it from the documentation, this is exactly what they have. So I'll say const convex new convex react client, and we're going to put our environment variable, which is next public convex URL. Let's make the TypeScript happy by adding the exclamation mark. Then we're going to create a function called convex clerk provider. Now this will take the children, right? And let's say children, this is going to return a provider. Let's say return this part. First we'll have the clerk provider, then inside we'll have convex provider with clerk, and we have the imports above. So this will take the client as our convex instance, then it'll have the use auth. So these are the things that you don't really need to memorize or completely understand. These are the things that are coming from the documentation. As you can tell, it's the exact same thing. So I didn't really memorize this. If you are wondering, you don't really need to memorize it as well. Just grab it from the documentation so that you can make it work. Then for the publishable key, this is what we're going to have. And finally, here we will return the children, which is our entire application. So let's make the TypeScript happy. We'll say we're getting a children prop, which is going to be a React node. And we can say export default this function. So we have created this provider, but we are never using it, right? So we need to visit layout.tsx, and instead of clerk provider, we will replace it with convex clerk provider. Close this off, and this is our import that we are getting. We don't really need this at this point because we are using it in this file, right? All right, so if you take a look at these steps, that should be it. Now we can get these different components like unauthenticated or authenticated from Convex. Now you might be asking, okay, we have done a couple of different steps, but if I take a look at my database, and by the way, I don't know if you have realized, we got the exact same project in the dashboard. If we take a look at our database, we don't really have anything, right? So you might say, all right, what we have just done is for nothing. Not really. We have just set it up the authentication with the database. Now we would like to create maybe some schema, right? We would like to say we're going to have some tables in this exact same structure. For this, I'll go under the Convex and create this schema.ts file. And we would like to define a couple of different tables. So here I'll shrink my left-hand side and let's say export default define schema. If I can type it correctly, let's call this function and add the object as the first argument. We're going to import this from Convex server. Then we'd like to get another function called define table. Finally, we're going to get, let's say, import v from convex values. Now we're going to be using all of them. The very first table that I'd like to define is going to be users. So say define table, and here are the fields that I'd like to have for my users. So let's say every single user will have a name, and this is going to be type of string. So we'll say v.string. Then let's duplicate this. Every user will have an email. Then every user can have an image, but we can leave it as an optional. So I'll just wrap this with v.optional. Then we're going to store a field called Clerk ID. I'll explain why this is the case. Alright, then we'd like to add an index. Let's say index that is going to allow us to query a user really quickly with the Clerk ID. So we'll say this is the index name. We would like to get a user by Clerk ID by passing the Clerk ID field. Then the second table we would like to have will be plans. I'll say define a table, and this is going to be a little more complex, but let's see. So first we would like to have the user ID so that we know which user has this plan. So we can say v.string, or we can say v.id, and specifically it'll be an ID from the users table. Then you can say name, let's say v.string. Each plan will have a name. Then we can say workout plan. This is going to be v.object because we're going to add a couple of different fields. Let me give a little bit of space. All right, so each workout plan will have a schedule, right? So let's say schedule, which is going to be an array of strings. So let's say v.array, v.string, just like that. So this will be the days of the week. And then we can have the exercises, which is going to be an array of objects. Now, I know that this might look a little bit complicated, but I promise once we fetch these fields and display it in the UI, it should make sense. For now, we are just defining our schema. So just, I would say, follow along with me. We got the exercises, which are going to be an array of objects. Let's go inside. We would like to say, we're going to have a day type of string. Then we'll have routines. That is going to be, let's say, an array of objects for the one last time. I'll say v.object, not string, but let's say object, and we can add our fields. So this is what I have. I'll go inside and just paste this in. Each routine will have a name, sets, which are going to be optional, but we'll just have them most of the time, and then reps, duration, description, and exercises. So here are my types. I will save this and just go above the or below to the workout plan. Okay, just shrink this, go below to it, and we'll have a diet plan because we don't really want to only build a workout plan, but also a diet plan, which is going to be a v.object. Let's close this off and we can add our fields. So we would like to have the daily calories, which is going to be number, right? Call this and we'll say meals. And that's going to be it. So I'll say v dot, not visual, v dot array. So array of objects, and each object will have a name. So say v dot string. This could be things like breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe snack, so on and so forth, and the foods, which is going to be an array of strings. I'll say v.array, v.string. Okay, once again, this might look absolutely complicated, but we're going to get into it later in the video. This is just where we define our table. This could have been done in a completely better way, right? But this is also working. We can keep it simple. We got the plans, and finally we can just check if it is active or not, because as you might see from the demo, and let me actually display this. Let's go into the profile page. You can create a bunch of different plans, right? And the very last one will be active. The other ones will be inactive. So this is the field that we would like to add to check. So just below to the diet plan, let's shrink this. I'll put a comma and I'll say is active, which is going to be a Boolean value. V dot Boolean. All right, then we can add some, let's say indexes. I'll say index, we can get a plan by user ID, and we're gonna pass the user ID field to be able to get that, as well as another index by active, if it is active or not. Let's say it'll be is active. Alright, so once you save this file, and by the way, you should always keep this npx convex dev in your second terminal open. So from here on out until the end of this video, you should have the npm run dev running on a separate terminal, as well as npx convex dev. Because just notice how whenever I save a convex file, it's going to get these changes and push it to Convex dashboard. So now if I visit my dashboard, I can see I got two different tables, right? It is working in real time, and we got our schema. So it's crazy how we write this code locally, right? But now it is in our dashboard, just because we are running this second terminal. And if you're getting confused, you can say rename. I'll say this is the Convex terminal, and this is the Next.js. Alright, so we have just set up our database as well as defined our tables. In the next section, I'll teach you a concept called webhooks. Now in this section, we're going to talk about something really important called webhooks. Before we try to understand what that is, first we should understand the problem that we currently have. So we have signed up to our Next.js application, right, using Clerk. We got the user in our Clerk dashboard, but it is not really in our database, which is a huge problem. So why this is the case? It's because Clerk and Convex are completely different services and companies, right? So when we sign up with Clerk, we need to tell our database that, hey, we just got a user. Could you please take that user and save it to our database? All right, so how can we make this work? The solution is using webhooks, which are automated messages that are sent when something happens. And this something is when a user created. So I have explained webhooks previously a lot, but just in case if it is your very first time here, I'd like to take 5 minutes and try to explain it simply. So let's say we just signed up using our GitHub account. User has been created in the Clerk dashboard, but we don't really have it in our database, right? We have 0 documents. So we can tell to Clerk, hey, could you please send an event to our database, to our backend? And the event is called user.created. And when we send this event, when Clerk sent this event, they can send the user information, such as their name, profile image, email, everything. And then we can take it, save it to our database. So this is how easy it is in theory, and in practice it'll be a little bit more involved, but nothing complex. There are a bunch of different events, so we don't really have only user created, but things like user updated, maybe organization created, I don't know. We'll just see a bunch of different events. And now we got the user in the Convex database, right? But how do we know which user is this? For this, we have created a field, if you remember, called clerk.id. So this is that field that we really need to be able to identify a Clerk user. All right, now let's go ahead and set up the webhooks. So Clerk uses a package called svix, right? And we'll be using this to verify the webhook, because anyone can send us an event like user created. We need to make sure that this event is coming from Clerk specifically, right? Because a malicious user can send you an event and save their information to your database. We don't really want this ever to happen. And we'll be using svix to be able to check for it. So I will kill everything, open up my terminal, maybe a new one. I'll say npm install svix. Then we're going to create a special file called http.ts. We can kill this one, and let's try to implement it. So I think before we write any code, we need to visit the Clerk dashboard and add a webhook endpoint, right? So I'll go under the configure webhooks, and we'll say we would like to add an endpoint, and we would like to subscribe to some events. So first, let's put our endpoint URL. If you visit your .env file, you're gonna see this entire Convex URL, which is our backend URL, right? We would like to send events to our backend URL. I'll go here, paste this in. This should end with site, and for the endpoint, you can call this anything, but I would say let's go ahead and call this as clerk-webhook. All right, so this is the endpoint that Clerk will send the request, right? And the event that we would like to subscribe will be user.created. Whenever a user created, we would like to send an event from Clerk to our backend endpoint. And I also want to listen for user updated. I'll explain why later in the video. Let's say create. And now we are going to get this signing secret. Let's copy this. I will go into my Convex dashboard. Under the settings, I would like to add an environment variable. Let's say call this as Clerk webhook secret and paste the value in. We'll be using this for verification. All right. Now that we have set this up, we can go ahead and listen for this endpoint in our code under the http.ts file. So first I'll get an import from Convex called http router, and we can get an webhook event from Clerk, as well as the webhook from svix package. Then there is also something what we call API. This is coming from the generated folder. So this folder has been generated by Convex, and it includes some stuff that is really used to be able to use the Convex functions so that you can interact with your database. This is something that you would never really want to update. It is just a helper folder that has a bunch of different helper functions. All right, now let's go ahead and get started with it. I'll say HTTP. I'll say create an HTTP router, and we'll say http.route. We would like to have this object as our first argument. So the path that we would like to listen is going to be whatever we typed right here. Clerk webhook, right? So /clerk-webhook. Then this will be a post method, and then we are going to handle this. Let's say handler, we're going to have an HTTP action, and this is something we need to import from the generated server folder. I'll say HTTP action, and we are going to pass something in, which will be an async function that is going to take the context as well as the request. So this might look a little bit complicated for now, but just in a couple of minutes, it should make sense. First things first, we would like to get the webhook secret that we had as our environment variable. So we'll say if this is not provided, if we don't have it, we'll just throw an error. We'll say this need to be added, right? You are missing this. Then we're going to get a couple of different headers. So I'll just paste this in. We have from the request headers, we are getting the svix ID, signature, and timestamps. So we'll say if none of them or any of them not provided, we'll say no svix headers found. That means you're a malicious user, so you can't really do anything. Status code of 400. Now, if you have the headers, we still need to verify if you are Clerk that is sending the event. So we'll have the payload. We're going to grab this from the request. We're going to get the body, and we'll say create a new webhook object. So this code is something that you don't really need to memorize. Most of the time, what I'm doing is copy and paste. So that's why here I'll just copy and paste it so that we can really move forward. Everything that you see here is coming from the documentation. So I don't really think that you should memorize this or understand it completely. Just know what it is doing, and that's fine. So I'll have a try catch block. So we'd like to verify this body by using the WH, which is our webhook. And if it is not verified, we'll throw an error with 400 status code. But if we verified it correctly, then we can just grab the event type. So I'll say const event type. I'll say evt.type. Then we'll say, if you really want to, you can console log this. But I'll say if event type is equal to user.created. And here we can see we have a bunch of different events, right? So everything that Clerk provides. We'll listen for user created. If this is the case, we're gonna create the user in our Convex database. So I'll say, go ahead, grab some values. We're going to destructure it from event.data. And the data that we would like to get is going to be ID. We would like to get the first name, last name. These are the fields that Clerk has. We'll get the image URL, and finally the email addresses. So a user might have a couple of different email addresses, and we're gonna get the primary one. All right, so after this, let's grab the primary email address. I'll say email addresses. This is an array. Visit the first one and find the very first email address. Then we'll say const name. Now what I really want to do, just get the full name. So I'll get the first name and concatenate this with the last name. This is how we can make this work. First name plus last name. Just in case if one of them is null, we'll leave them as an empty string. Now that we got the name, we would like to save this user to database. So I'll say try catch block. And in the try, we would like to run what we call a mutation. So I will say await context.mutation, or maybe run mutation. And mutations are used when you want to create something in your database, or when you want to update something, when you want to delete something, right? These are the things that you would like to have, and you would like to use mutation for them. And if you would like to fetch some data, you would use queries. We're going to get into those. Now let's say api.users, and I'll say sync user. This is a function that we're going to create just in a second, and this will need a couple of different values, arguments. So I will say we're going to give you the email of the user, we'll give you the name, and we'll give you the image. You can call this as the image URL. And finally, we would like to have the Clerk ID, which is going to be this ID that we're getting as an argument. In the catch, we can say error creating the user and just return a response of 500. Now let's go ahead, create this sync user function under the users. We can create a file called users.ts, and we're going to put every single function that is related to users. Now let's create this sync user mutation. Sync user, and we would say mutation. Import it. This will take an object where we would like to grab some arguments. That's going to be name. So we'll say v.string. And we need to import the v from convex values. Then we are going to get the email, Clerk ID, as well as the image. That's going to be string. Let's say Clerk ID is also going to be string, let's say. And finally, the image. This could be v.string, and it could be even optional. So after the arguments, we would like to do something, right? We would like to handle the request. We'll say handler. We're going to get the async with context and arguments. Now, first we would like to check if this user existed, right? We don't really want to immediately say, go ahead, context db.insert under the users table. Just add the arguments that user passed. We can do this, but first we would like to check if this user existed already. I'll say const existing user await context.db.query. So we will query the users table, and I'll say filter. Let me go below just to make this a little bit more formatted. So we'll say filter. We're going to get the query. We can say query.equal to query.field. clerk ID that is coming from the arguments. Once we find anything, we can just say grab the first result. And I'll say if existing user, if we have this, just return don't do anything. But if we don't have it, then you can insert the user and just return this as the result. All right. Now that we have this function, we shouldn't really get any errors. Here it says clerk ID. All right, so here we have it as clerk ID, and here we have it as underscore. I'll go ahead and fix this. Now this is the beauty of Convex. Whenever you have some type issues, right, that's related to TypeScript, you're gonna get the warning immediately. All right, now we don't really have any errors at this point, but we would like to add another response if everything went successfully. So outside of this catch, but I think outside of the if as well, we'll go below. We'll say return new response. We can say something like webhook processed successfully. And status will be 200. Save this file and go at the very bottom, just say export default the HTTP router that we have. So let me zoom out, explain this once again, and then we'll test this out. When a user created, Clerk will send you an event to this endpoint, which is going to be a post request. We're going to first verify this event if it is coming from Clerk or not. So up until here, this is all the verification checks. And then we're going to get the event type. We'll check if this is user created event. If so, we're going to run a mutation that is going to take these arguments and save the user to the database with the insert method. And that's it. We'll just send a response with 200 success status code. Now let's save, go into the, maybe first open up the terminal. We don't really have any errors at the very bottom, right? Now let's go into the users under the clerk. You should delete this because we are going to sign up all over again. And go into the homepage. I'll say sign in. Now notice how we don't really have any users here and in the database. So I don't really have any users. I'd like to sign up. Let's see. All right, so we just signed up. User should be right here as well as here. Here we can see we got the user. That means we have just set it up this workflow correctly. User has been created. Clerk send us an event that says user created. We take the user and put it into our database. So I hope that makes sense. As I said, this is a piece of code that you don't really need to memorize or to be able to type this out by yourself. Bunch of different really complex steps for the very first time, but then it should make sense. And we can visit our Clerk dashboard under the configure and under the webhooks specifically. We can see the success rate. So the error rate is 0. That means it has been successfully so far. Here we can see everything, like every data that we have for this event, and it says it's succeeded. And previously, if you remember, I said we're gonna listen for another event called user.updated. For now, I'll add a to-do. I'll say to-do update, or let's say add, or maybe handle the user.updated event later in the video. All right, so for now, I'd like to keep it simple and leave it here. And we're going to implement this later. So that's gonna be it for the webhooks section. I'll see you in the next one. In this section, we're gonna build the home screen, which is gonna be looking like this, where we will have a navbar at the top of the page. We're gonna have the page content with a grid background. This is the background that we'll have in every single page. And then finally, at the very bottom, we will have a footer component. And navbar will be looking dynamic depending on if you are authenticated or not. If you are not authenticated, this is what you will see. We have two different authentication buttons that says sign in or sign up. And if you are logged in, you'll see this kind of a variation. All right, So that's gonna be it for the home screen UI. Let's get started with it. And this section doesn't really include any logic at all. It's just pure UI. So we can just move forward a little bit fast. First thing I'd like to do, visit my layout file. And I would like to create two different components. One above the children, we will put the navbar. We would like to have this in every single page. And one below to the children. And the children is our entire application, right? It's the content. So we will say we're gonna have the footer below to the page content. Now we can create these components under the components folder, which is gonna be under the source. So I'll say components. We will have the navbar.tsx. For now, let's create it like this and do the same thing for footer component. Okay, so let's go ahead and try to import these. This is coming from the components folder. Same for the footer. And I'll be also updating my title that I have for the page. I don't really want to see something like create next step. Instead, we can put the name of our AI. Let's say CodeFlex AI get checked. And for the description, we can say something like a modern fitness AI platform to get checked for free. All right. Now, how do we put a background like this that is grid on every single page? So that's gonna be going under the root layout, because this is where we'll like to put the shared UI, just like navbar and footer. And instead of typing this out for the background, I have prepared a list. These are the not important things that we don't really want to type this out, but instead just copy and paste as we move forward. So this is the first thing that we'll copy, called grid background. And I'll go right here below to the navbar and above the children. So I'll just paste that in. Let me zoom out so that you can see it clearly. All we have is a grid background. And we can wrap the children with a main tag. So I just cut this for a second. I'll paste this in, and we'll have some classes like padding top of 24 and flex grow. Let's save and try to see the output. Hopefully it should be working, as you can see. Now let's get started with the navbar component. And once again, this has no logic at all. It doesn't really make any sense to type this out, and you don't really need to memorize this, or like, you don't really have to be able to build this by yourself. Most of the time, this is the kind of stuff that you will copy and paste online, and this is what I have done exactly. So let's go ahead and get started with the navbar component. I'll go right here and try to build the UI. So first things first, I'll make this to be a client component, because we'll be using a hook, which is going to be use user that is coming from Clerk. This is going to be running on the client, and we'll like to get is signed in field. So we're going to check if user is authenticated or not. And for the return statement, we can say return a header like this. And here we'll have a couple of different classes. So instead of typing this out, I'd like to copy and paste from the source code and move forward. If you'd like to go faster, or as fast as I do, you can do the exact same thing. I'll just zoom in. All right. So we'll just have the navbar fixed at the top of our page, right? And we'll give some different props for the border, backdrop blur, the background color, padding, so on and so forth. Then we'll have a div that will be taking class name of container mx auto. Let's say it'll have flex item centered, justify centered, or I think it'll be justify between, because we're gonna have something on the left and something on the right. The one that will be on the left will be logo, which is gonna be a link with an icon as well as the text. So I'll get a link from Next.js link, and we're gonna get the zap icon that look like this from Lucid React. Alright, so no logic at all, just super simple HTML CSS. And this is what we have. This is the left hand side. Now let's try to build the navigation, which is going to be the right hand side. Just below to the link, I'll say navigation. I'll have a nav element. Let's say class name, flex, items of centered. Okay, this is really annoying. Normally, when you say IC, it should give you item centered. Now looks like VS Code has changed, but that's fine. Let's say gap of 5. Then we'll go inside and we'll like to check with this variable. So we'll say if user is signed in, render this part, else render this part. Let's first get started with this part, which is going to be first a fragment, because we'll have a bunch of different children. Let's say the very first one will be the link for the home. So let's get the home icon. We just put the text as well as an icon. Then after this, we're going to put the generate link. That will take us to the generate program page. This would take us to the home screen. Then we're going to have the profile link. Let's get the user icon. And now we can save, or maybe just put one more button that will say get started. And now we're going to be using a Shadcn component. So which is going to be a button. To be able to get this, first we need to open up our terminal. I'll go create a new terminal and I'll say npx Shadcn. And you know what? Instead of typing this out, I would like to show you how you can get that. So I'll visit shadcn.com and search for the button component. Okay, so here is the installation guide, and this is how it'll look like by default. Let's copy this. So you would say npx Shadcn at latest add and whatever the component name is. So we'll just get the button. I'll paste this in, but you don't really have to install one by one. You can install everything all at once, right? Or maybe multiple different components. So we can get a button as well as the cart component. We'll be using cart later in the video. Let's say use legacy pure depths. And what this will do is to create a UI folder under the components and then the file for the button and cart. Now let's double check. Under the components, we got the UI folder and the code for the button that we need. So you don't really need to go into this file and take a look at it. If you really wish, you can, take a look at it, see how that works. But most of the time, all you want to do, just import it from the UI button folder. Alright, so we have the variant, class name, link inside, and we put as child so that it would take the props of link and work as a link, right? Then finally, in the else case, I'll put a fragment. Let's go ahead, create a sign in button coming from Clerk. I'll say sign in button. Now by default, this looks really ugly and we can go inside, try to customize it. So we'll say instead of their content, we would like to have our own button with the variant being, let's say variant is going to be outline, and you have a bunch of different options. We'll go with the outline for this one and some class name. And for the text, we'll say sign in. So let me display this pretty quickly. We are trying to build this button, and this is what we call the outline variation, and this is the primary. Now for the class name, I'll just copy it and paste this in. We have the border color, text, so on and so forth, and we'll have one more button. That is gonna be for the sign up button. The exact same thing that we'll have inside, just a button, and let's import it from Clerk. This will say sign up. Now let's save, try to see the output. So it looks like we're authenticated. This is what we see. A couple of different links. When we hover over them, it looks nice, and we have this button. And now on the right hand side, we can also add a user button that will show your profile. And this is coming from Clerk. Just after this get started button, we'll say user button. And this is going to be a self-closed component. Import it from Clerk, and this should be good to go. Alright, now I can click to this, manage my account, which is going to give me this model. I can update my profile, and I can sign out. Now that we are signed out, this is what we see, the outline button as well as the regular button. All right, so that's gonna be it for the navbar component. We can close this file and go into the home page. Let me shrink everything, go under the app and under the home page. We're gonna delete this content, and this doesn't have to be a client component, and we can start building UI. So first we'll have a div with some class names. Instead of typing them out, I'll go ahead, paste this in. We'll have a hero section. So that's gonna be a section component. And if you don't know which section that is, it'll be this part that we are trying to build. So this entire thing is what we call the hero section. It'll have a left content, right? And then a right content. So let's go ahead and get started with this, and specifically with the left content first. So we'll have the section and we'll have a div. This will be our container div. And we'll like to center this with MX Auto and give some paddings horizontally. Then we'll have one more div that will be our grid layout. All right, so inside I'd like to have my corner decoration, which is going to be this thing that you see right here, right? It's going to be just one line, so I'll say corner decoration. All right, this will be the content. It'll be positioned absolutely to the top left. This is going to be the size, border top and border left, and we don't really need to add this class, but basically this will give the border variable color. So you can't really delete that. I believe that's the default thing already. All right, so this is what we got. Now let's try to build the rest of it. And we're gonna get started with the left-hand side. So I'll just say left side content. And we'll have a div that will be spanned on the large screen as 7 space y of 8 relative, and let's close this off. We'll go inside and create an h1. So I would like to copy and paste the content. So what I've done, do we have one extra div? If I delete that, all right, now this should be working. Let's paste the h1 inside, which has a couple of different items so that it would look like this. Definitely feel free to change this. This is what I have. You can put your own variation. Then after the h1, we're gonna put a separator line, which is gonna be this thing that we see. So I'll go ahead and say separator line, paste this in. We can make this to be a self-closed, or this should also be working. It doesn't have any content though. Then we can put a p tag. Let's save, and after the p tag we can put our stats. So once again, this doesn't really include any kind of logic. All we have to do is just put UI, and I'd like to move a little bit faster. All right, so we have 3 different stats, right? This is the first one, second one, and a third one, and in between we have separator lines, right? We have 2 of them. And this is what we got. I don't know if you can see from the video, but there is definitely a separator here and here. And finally, maybe we can put our button. That's gonna take us to the generate program page. So below to the stats, I'll go ahead and say button and give you the content. So we're gonna have the button component coming from components, UI button, and this @ symbol means, let's see. So when you say @ it's basically under the source. So from the source, we went into the components, under the UI, and under the button file. And this is what we call the alias. I think previously I said I can explain what components.json file does. Here we can see we have some aliases where we set up the components folder, right, for the utils, UI, so on and so forth. And this is one of those places that we are using this configuration. Then we're going to import the next link and an arrow right icon, let's say. This is going to be coming from Lucid React. When we click to this link, it will take us to the generate program page. Alright, let's click to it. We are in the generate program page, but since we are unauthenticated, we will see the sign in page. So that's gonna be it for the left hand side. Let's try to build the right hand side. So after the button, after this first div, second div, we will go ahead and have the right side content. So previously the left side took about 7 columns, right? This is what we had for the left. And in total we have 12, so the right hand side should be 5. This is what I'll have. Let's close this off. And then we'll say, first we'll like to have a couple of corner pieces, which are gonna be these. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's try to build them. I will say corner pieces. You can grab this from the GitHub repo. It's a really basic 4 lines of code. So we have a parent component, then 4 different absolutely positioned elements. So it looks like this did not work properly. Let's try to fix it maybe. So I think it did not work because we don't really have the image container yet. Once we have the image content, it should be working properly. So here I'll say image container, and we'll have a div with some class names. Let's say class name, and I'll provide this entire class name that we have. Then we'll go inside, we'll have one more div. Let's say class name, and I'll give you the entire class list. That will look like this. Then inside this div, we're gonna have the image. You can use the image component coming from Next.js. I'll be using this one. So for the source, we'll go into the public folder, and we have a couple of different images that we have got at the beginning of this tutorial. That's gonna be AI3.png, and we can add an alt. I'll say AI fitness coach. And I'll say class name, height and width full, or just size full. Then we can say object color, as well as the object centered. Now let's say if we are getting a warning from ESLint that we can fix in a second. Let's try to see the output. Alright, why we didn't got any content? I had hero AI3, I believe, under the public. It ends with PNG. Am I missing something? Let's see. So I just realized it's outside of the right hand side, right? This is where we can see the image. It's because this should be going, let me copy the entire thing. This should go under the right side content parent. So just below to the corner pieces, we're gonna have the image container. Let's save. Now it should be right here, and the corners are working properly. Now we would like to have some scanline animation. And for this, I have prepared something that we can copy, and we'll just paste this into our code base. Right below the image, I'll say scan lines, and I'll just paste this in. So once again, something that is not really important to memorize or type this out, we have animate scaline or scanline that is coming from the global CSS, and I said I would be explaining this. So this is that part where we have animate scanline, right? And we're using this on this class. So we have the keyframe as well as the animation itself. Right below to the scanline, we're gonna put some decorations on top of the image. But first, let's save. And it is working as expected. Now, we would like to put these decorations. I cannot zoom in, but we have this line from the top, from the bottom we have one, right, left, as well as this thing in the middle. Then we're gonna put the terminal overlay. So right below to the scan line, I'll just say decorations on top of the image. Let me put a comment. top of the image. And I'll go ahead, copy and paste this content. All right, so this is what we have, really easy looking, couple of different lines and something in middle, I believe. Let's see. All right, so if you delete them, you can play around with them, right? I'll delete this. This is what we have. The thing is not in the middle. Now we have that. All right, so after this div, we are gonna put the overlay gradient. Now, currently this image looks so much brighter than this one, right? So we can add some overlay. If you don't want to, you don't have to, but I will add it right below to the decorations. So we'll say absolute instead of 0. That means that take the entire parent, which is the image, and then we'll add background gradient to top, right? From the bottom to the top, from this color to this one, like to this one and via this one. I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Now this has been blurred out a little bit, or I should say overlaid with a black overlay. And then we need to add this terminal overlay. And I'll go below to this div, which is our decoration. And after this div, we will say terminal overlay. And this can be a component that we're going to create just in a second. I'll copy the name, go into the components, create this, and import it. All right, now let's go into that component and try to build that. So just to speed this up a little bit, I will zoom out and delete the entire content, paste this in about 30 lines of code, and let me walk you through it. So we have a functional component where we return only some content. We have a status bar that look like this. Then we have the p tag and some more stats. Let's save and take a look at it. This is what we have, and for the font family, we are using font mono. So this is the class name. That's why it looked like this. Now, if you really want to pause the video, definitely do so. Just pause the video, take a look at the code, play around with the UI if you are really interested, and if you want to see how you can build something like this by yourself, you can take a challenge. But here I really want to move a little bit faster because this project is all about AI, right? We are not here to learn HTML and CSS, specifically Tailwind CSS. So I'd like to go a little bit faster if you don't get mad. All right, so after the terminal overlay, we have a couple of different divs. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have the section, right? I'll go below to the section and we're going to create one more component that will be for the user programs. This will be a component that we'll create. If you wanted to, you can build the UI here, but I think this component is getting already too long for just UI. That's why I will create it here. Let's say tsx and import it. Then let's save this file, go back into that one and try to build the UI. Now this user programs component will look like this. Let me give you a quick showcase. All right, so we will have this program gallery at the top and then some user data. And for this data, we can get started with some hard-coded data that I have prepared. So we can visit the constants file and copy this entire thing. What we have is an array of objects for users. So we have like first name, profile pic, their fitness goal, and all kinds of data that you see here. I'll go ahead and create that file first. So under the source, under the components, not components, under the constants, we will have index.ts file and just paste this in. 100 lines of code, but that's only hard-coded data. Then for this component, now this will be around 100 lines of code, and I don't really want to type this out. This is only UI. Please don't get mad. There is no logic, once again. So if you want to, you can type this out, but if you don't want to, I have prepared something for you. All you have to do, just visit the copy-paste list and scroll to right here. You will see the user programs.ts file. And actually it should be tsx, but here we go. Go ahead and paste Oh, hell no. It's like 200 lines of code, but I'll save and I'll walk you through it line by line. Alright, so I know that's a lot to copy and paste, but once again, since there is no logic, I'd like to just go a bit faster. First, I'll show you the output. This is what we have, right? We got the program gallery with some stats, and then we have the user cards. It is looking really nice. That's why the code is so long. Otherwise, there is really like no logic. Let me put them side by side. And I believe this should be responsive, right? So once you hit here, it's gonna go into the column direction for the cards, as you can tell. And I believe the rest of the content should be responsive. All right, so I'll just zoom out a little bit, put them side by side. Maybe just like this. All right, so we have two different containers. Then we had the header, which is gonna be this program gallery. We have a header bar that says program gallery. You know, we always have some kind of decorations. If you delete this, I believe it should be this thing. Now it's gone. You can put this. Just pause the video and play around with the code. Then we have the featured plans text that is on the right hand side. Then we have the header content where we have this AI generated programs text, a p tag, and some stats. After the stats, we are going to go ahead and get started with the program cards, where we are basically mapping through the user programs constant, right? This is that the hard-coded list that we have just created in this file. For each program, we are displaying a card component that is coming from Shadcn UI. So we are importing it from our components folder. And then for every single card, we are giving a key, which will be the program ID, so that React is happy with us. Then we have some class names. We have the card header with user info, and we have the rest of the content. We are getting some warnings from ESLint. That's completely fine. We can definitely fix this, and this is what we'll be doing a little bit later in the video. Basically, it says it's a better convention to use the Next.js image component that is coming from Next image package, but we can use our own image as well, right? All right, so that's the entire content. So we have the program details. So as you can tell, we have Apple icon, shield icon, and on top of it, we had the dumbbell icon. And then finally, we have the program description with a footer. So when you click to this one, like when you click to this button, it should take you to programs and then the ID of the program. Since we don't have this page, we're gonna get 404. So this is just for example, right? For the sake of example. And then we have the CTA section, which is a button with a text. When you click to it, that would take you to the generate program page. But we don't really have this page. This is something that we'll build a little bit later in the video. And with this, that's gonna be it for the hero section. I know that we have copied, paste a lot, but that's what we have to do if we want to move a little bit faster. Then I'll just open up this entire thing, zoom in, and we can get started with the footer component. That's the only thing that we are missing for this section. I'll go into the footer.tsx and let's try to put this one by one. I'll have a return statement and I'll have a footer component actually. Let me zoom in once again. All right, so we're gonna get footer with some classes. That's gonna be border top, and we'll just say background of 80%, which is going to change the opacity, and let's say backdrop blur small. Then we can say just add some top border glow. I'll give you a comment. Then after this div, we would like to put one more div, and you know what, I'm just so lazy to type this out. I'll go ahead, paste this entire component, around 70 lines of code. If you'd like to find it, you can get this from the, from this list. It should be somewhere in the bottom. Just go ahead, copy and paste, save, and this is the output. So we are here building an entire full stack application that is related to AI. I just assume you know how to build a footer that's as easy as this one. We have 3 different columns. On the left, we have the logo, the footer content, some links, and then some kind of like component that says system operational, right? We are live, it is working without any problems. Now this links could be looking a little bit different or better. Just pause the video, try to do so if you want to. But other than this, it should be good to go. Obviously, we don't really have these pages. This is just for decoration purposes only. Alright, so that's gonna be it for this section. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Now we're gonna get started with the generate program screen. It looks really simple, where we have 2 different cards, one for the AI and one for ourselves. Then we'll have a button where we can start the call or end it if it is active. Then we'll have a couple of different states so that we can check for the loading state, right? When we click to this button, we will see something like connecting, and once it connects, it'll say end call, so on and so forth. Now let's go ahead and try to get started with it. I'll visit the generate program page. Now we'll have a lot of different things that are related to client. So we have to mark this with use client, and that's a perfect valid scenario to have this page as a client component. First things first, I'll import the use state from React, and then we will create a couple of different states. So the very first one is to check if call is active or not. Let's say import the use state. Initially it'll be false. Then we can have a loading state for connecting. Let me zoom in. We'll say set connecting, it'll be false. Then we'll say const is speaking. This is for AI. This should be is speaking. And we can actually say something like is AI speaking, but I'll just go with the same to keep it simple. Then we're gonna get some messages as we talk. So let's say set messages. Initially, this will be an empty array. Now, these messages will be, when you're talking, you're going to see a component like this where we can see whatever we say and whatever AI says, right? So if you say, hey, how's it going? You should be able to see that text here, and same for the AI. All right, so that's the state that we need. Then const call ended. Initially, this will be false. Once the call is ended, we will take the user and navigate them to the profile screen. That's why we are keeping track of this state. Then I'll get the use user hook from Clerk. This is going to give us the user profile. Let's say get the user. Then finally, we're going to be using the router so that we can navigate the user, right? I'll say use router imported from Next navigation, it should be. And the use router hook should be coming from next/navigation. You can double check this by taking a look at to the documentation. Previously, if like when you were using the pages router, it was coming from the next router. But now, since you are using the app router, which is the latest one, it is coming from the next navigation. This is coming from the Next.js documentation. All right, now let's go into this component. We are going to build a couple of different use effects. And just before that, I will create one last thing that is called message container reference. So we'll be using this whenever we want to, just see the messages and scroll them automatically, right? So we'll say use ref. Initially, it'll be null, and this would be used in an HTML div element. So let's make the TypeScript happy. Once we use this, I think you'll be able to see it in a better way. And for now, I'll have a use effect. Just before we build the UI, let's build our logic. All right, so we'll go ahead and initialize the use effect. We'll be using the Vapi SDK, right? So we have created this variable in our vapi.ts file. Now we'll be using this to be able to listen for different events, right? So I'll say vapi.on, and we can listen for a bunch of different things. Like if the call is started, what'll happen in this case? We'll call a method called handle call start. This is something that we're gonna build in a second. Then we can chain lots of different methods. Like I'll say on, we'd like to listen for call end. we're going to call the handle call end method. Then we can have on speech start, we'll say handle speech start, and this will run whenever the AI starts talking. Same for the speech end. Then we can say dot on when we got the message. So this is basically transcript when we are talking with the AI. Then I'll say handle message in this case. Finally, we can have a method to be able to handle the errors, right? We might get some errors. So that's why we'll say on error when Vapi sends us some errors, we'd like to handle that. Now we're going to build these functions just in a second. To add some cleanups, I'll go right below to the use effect at the very bottom. I'll say return an arrow function where we'd like to get rid of those, right? I'll say vapi.off and we'll add every single event that we have added above. And I'll just add a comment for your reference. I'll say cleanup event listeners on mount. All right, now let's try to create these functions. First, I'll create them as an empty function. So I'll say handle call start. This could be an empty function, and let's let the AI to complete it for us for the rest of it. So we got the handle message, handle error, and we can maybe get started with the handle call start method. So first things first, I'll just put a console log. I'll say call started. This is just for debugging purposes that we can see in the browser. Then once the call started, we can say set connecting to be false because call has just started, right? We are not connecting anymore. We'll say set call active to be true, and we'll say set call ended to be false. We'll go into this method called handle call end. What are we going to do in this case? First, I'll just put my console log that says call ended. Then we can say set call active. It is not active anymore, so it'll be false. Set connecting, let's say. This would also be false. Set is speaking will be false. AI is not speaking. Call has ended. And let's say set call ended. That's also going to be true. And then we're going to go into the handle speech start. Now all we have to do, just say set is speaking to be true, and we can add a console log like AI started speaking. Then we'll go into the handle speech end. We'll do the same thing. For this time, we'll just say stop speaking. Let's give a little bit space. All right. Then for the handle message and handle error, we can get into the handle message in a second. For now, I'll implement the handle error. I'll say console log Vapi error. We're going to display the error, and we can set the set connecting to be false and set call active also to be false. If we got some errors, these states should be false. So that's gonna be it for the very first use effect that we have. Let me just zoom out so that it's a little bit easier to see. Then I would like to create one more use effect that is going to auto scroll messages when new content arrives. So I'll just put it right above this one, and we can add a comment like set up event listeners for Vapi. Then we'll have this thing, let's say auto scroll messages. This is going to be use effect, and I think I accidentally import the use hook. Let's delete that. We'll say just an empty use effect. Whenever the messages changes, we would like to run this use effect. That's going to be if messages or message container ref.current, just to make the TypeScript happy. In this case, we'll like to scroll to top. So I'll say message container ref.current.scroll to top will be equal to message container.current.scroll height. So this is a trick that you can do when you want to auto scroll in a div. And specifically, we're using this ref. I think this will make sense a little bit later in the video once we use the ref. Then I'd like to have one more use effect that is going to navigate us to the profile page whenever the call ends. So I'll go here, I'll say navigate user to profile screen or profile page after the call ends. So we can do this programmatically with use effect. Let's initialize it. And I'll say whenever the call ends, right, whenever this value changes, you can run this use effect. We'll say if call ended. In this case, we're going to go inside and just say router.push to the profile screen. Now this is fine, but I'd like to add a little bit of delay just to make sure any final processing is complete. So I'll say const redirect timer. This will be a method. Let's say set timeout. All right, here for the timeout, I'll put like 2 seconds or 1.5 second of delay. And I'll put this inside right here. I think this should be good to go. And I would like to get rid of this set timeout whenever we unmount. So here I'll say return and clear this timeout. And let's just say use the router here just to make you happy. Excellent. All right. So this is what we need for the use effects, and we can get started with the return statement. Like technically we need a couple of different more functions, or maybe just one, where we can toggle the call. So what happens when you click to this button, right? And later in the video, we'll have an end call button once the call started. When we click to it, what'll happen, so on and so forth. We would like to call a method. So let's create it. I'll say toggle call, and just be patient. Once we build these functions, we're going to get started with the UI and just test this out. It should be working fine. We'll have this as an async function. First, I'll say if call is already active. In this case, we can just say, hey, Vapi, just stop the call, right? But in the else case, we can go inside and do a bunch of different things. So I'll have a try and catch block. If I can type it correctly, let's say try catch. Here in the try, we would like to first do some resetting. I'll say set connecting to be true because we are just trying to start the call. And then we'll say set messages. Let's reset the state. Set call ended could be equal to false. Now we are going to go and call the Vapi.start method. And this want you to put the workflow ID or the assistant ID. But since we have attached our assistant to a workflow, we can just grab this, let's see, this environment variable called workflow ID. Now, technically, this is the assistant ID that we have copied, but since it is related to a workflow, this is what we have called it, right? Process.env.next public Vapi workflow ID. Let's say to TypeScript, we always have this value and we would like to send some variables. So I'll say variable values, and we're going to have the full underscore name. That's going to be equal to full name. Now let's create this full name value. And if you remember, this is the variable that we have added into our Vapi dashboard. Let me display this pretty quickly. I'll visit my account. Under the workflows, when we start the workflow, we are getting the full underscore name, right? This is the variable syntax, and this is exactly what we are passing. Later in the video, we will add a user ID. Let me just add a to-do, send user underscore ID as well later in the video. All right, now we would like to build the full name variable. We're going to be using Clerk to be able to build this. Basically, we're going to get the first name and last name and just display that. So here, this is what I'll have. We are using the user coming from Clerk. We'll say first name. If it has existed, use the first name and then use the last name. If this is not existed, we can say something like, hey there. But 99% of the time, we will have the username. So we are never going to hit this most of the time. Now, this should be it for the try block. I'd like to go into the catch, just say console log, let's say failed to start call, and we can put the error, and we can say set connecting to be false. So that's gonna be it for this method. Now it is time to build the UI and call this method, and use effects should work as well. Now in the next section, we can build the UI. Alright, so this is where we left. Let's go ahead and get started with the return statement. I will have a main tag. This is going to be for the page content, but since we already have main in the layout, I think we can go with a div. Here I'll just say, give me some classes that I'd like to copy and paste. You can grab this from the source code if you really wanted to, or pause the video, type this out. Then I'll have one more div that's going to be my container. So I'll have this and close this off just like that. Then finally we can put our title. That's going to be looking like this. Okay, so this is what I call the title or the header section. So we have an h1 and a p tag. After the title, let's shrink this. We're gonna go ahead and call the add the video call area. We will have some cards. So first I'll have a div that I can give my grid layout. I'll say grid columns of 1. Then I'll have medium screens and above grid columns of 2. Then I can say gap of 6, margin bottom of 8. Alright, then we're gonna go inside and just have a card component. Import this. This is gonna take a couple of different classes. And this card will be for the AI assistant. So let me just put a comment. I'll say AI assistant card, because we're gonna have two different cards, right? One for the user itself and one for the AI. Right below to this card, I'll put another comment. Let's say user card. For now, let's create a card component that we're gonna build in a couple of minutes. But first we need to build the AI assistant card. Now there is what we call the AI animation. First, let me create a div. Let's say we will have the class name of aspect video. This should be coming from Tailwind. We'll have flex column. We'll have the items centered, justify centered, and padding of 6 from all directions, and relative positioning. Now for the AI animation, I have some code that you can copy and paste from here. So it is the voice wave animation. So I'll copy this from the copy paste list and just paste it right here. Alright, and I'll put a comment like AI voice animation. Now let's put them side by side and try to see how it'll work. I think, do we have some errors? Yeah, we have some errors above that says you are not using this, but that's fine, we'll be using that. So let's go inside where we'll take a look at it. So when AI is speaking, the opacity will be 30, but else it is gonna be invisible, right? And while AI is speaking, we're gonna get this animation with the keyframes that we have in the global.css file. Now I'll just say is speaking will be equal to true. So I'll select these three and I'll say true. Let's save and take a look at it in the UI. Let's visit the generate program page. I'll first log in. We are in this page. Let's go into the generate. Alright, so this is what we got. This is what I call the wave animation. And this is the code just to make that work. So I didn't want to really type this out because it doesn't really include any logic. We're just checking for a variable, a state, and do some CSS trick. Alright, so this is the AI voice animation that we have. Right below to it, we're gonna have the AI image. So I'll go here, create a div, and I can add a comment. I'll say AI image container, or just AI image. That's gonna be a div first. This div will be, let's say, a decoration. This is gonna give the pulse animation. Let me copy and paste, and this will take some classes. Let's say it'll be relative. Width and height will be 32. So I can say size 32, margin bottom of 4. Once again, I'll save and just say true so that we can see something hopefully. Alright, so this is the animation that we're gonna see. while AI is talking. Right after this div, I'll put another div that is going to be the container for the image. So let me please copy and paste and walk you through it. So I just copied and pasted 4 lines of code where we have a div with these classes. This is the container, then we have an overlay, and then the image, which is the AI avatar.png. Let's take a look at it. All right, this is what we got. Now let's say if is speaking is equal to true. This is how it'll look like while AI is talking. So I just accidentally paused the video, but I was just saying if it is true, this is what we would got. Now let's say Control Z so that this is equal to is speaking, and right after the AI image, so we have 2 different divs. Let's go below to it. We're gonna have the H2 that says fit voice AI and this text. Let's save. This is the output that we have, and instead of saying fit voice, I'll just say code flex AI. All right below to it, we can put some kind of like a badge, right? That will say either waiting, like speaking, so on and so forth. This will be the speaking indicator. So I'll say speaking indicator. That's going to be a div with a dynamic class name. So let me go ahead, copy and paste. So if is speaking is equal to true, we'll just change the border color. Otherwise, it'll be the default color. Then I'd like to add a decoration right inside to it. So let me please indent this. So if AI is speaking, the prime background will change and we are going to have the animate pulse on this decoration. Then finally, we will have a span. We're going to test this out in a second. Let's say class name will be text x small, and we can say text muted foreground. Inside this span, we will have kind of like an if-else check with ternary operator. So I'll say if it is speaking, we'll say speaking, and we're going to put 3 dots. But in the else case, we will check if call is active. In this case, we will say listening, dot dot dot, and we will say if call is I think ended, we can say redirecting to profile, because once the call ends, as I said, we're going to take the user and redirect them to the profile page, but else we're just going to say waiting, and you can put 3 dots. All right, so this is what we'll have. Now let's go ahead and just say is speaking will be equal to true. I was going to select only these 3 just to see how it'll look like. There we go. We got this animate pulse animation and UI has changed completely. But now let's put it back to the variable itself. So that's going to be it for this very first card, for the AI card. Now we're going to build the user card, and then we should be able to start the call. I will go ahead, copy this entire card. It's about, 20 lines of code, and I'll walk you through it. So we just have a card that holds the user image. We will say user.image URL. This is coming from Clerk. Then we're going to put the full name of the user as well as the state, which is going to be ready always. All right, this is what I have. This image is coming from Clerk, as you can tell. Same for the name. Now, right after this card, we would like to put the button where we can control the call, right? So after the card, I'll just say, first, I'll add a to-do, because we would like to put the message container that will go here. We're going to build this a little bit later. For now, I'd like to have a div, and this will be for the call controls. All right, let's say class name will be width of full flex. Let's say flex justify centered and a gap of 4. We're gonna have a button, let's say coming from Shadcn UI, and this is gonna take a couple of different class names that will look like this. So we have width, the text right? We have width, text large, rounded. Then if it is call is active, we're going to get these classes. If call is ended, we would get these. And finally, this would be the default case. After the button classes, we're going to put the content. So we would like to have some kind of loading state if we are connecting, right? I'll say if connecting is equal to true, we will have this span. Now let's save and just say this will be equal to true so that we can see the output. All right, so this is how it'll look like if we are in the connecting state. Then right after this connecting text, we're gonna have a span and we'll just put some kind of dynamic text. So if call is active, we will say end call. If it is connecting, this would be the text. And if call is ended, we would say view profile, else it would be the start call. Here we go. Now let's try to take it into the middle of the screen. We say width full, but for some reason, this does not work. So are we missing anything? So I believe after the card, let's go ahead, cut this entire part and put it right after this div. So after the card, we'll have one more div and then we're going to put the button content. All right, now this is what we have. So we can click to this button where we would like to start the call, right? And on this button, we need to add the on click event. So here I'll go ahead and say on click to this button, we would like to call our method, which is called as toggle call. And now we can say if this is disabled, this would be disabled if you are in the connecting state or if call has ended. Now let's save and hopefully this should be working out. I'll go ahead, try to run this. First, let me open up the desktop sound so that you can see the AI once this started. So let me give you the access. I'll say hello while visiting the site.
Hello, Barak. I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm here to help you build a personalized diet and weekly gym workout plan that fits your lifestyle. I'll need to gather some details from you to create something that's truly effective. Are you ready to get started?
Yes, let's go ahead and get started.
Great, let's get started. Could you please tell me your age?
Alright, so as you can tell, it is working properly, and once we end the call, that would take us to the profile page where we can see the generated program. Now currently we cannot see it, unfortunately, because we didn't build it, but it is working as expected. There is one thing that we are missing at the moment. It's that the message container, right? For this, first I'd like to build my function that we have created above. So I'll just scroll to the very top where we have this handler under the event listeners. So we said handle the message. So this message type is coming from Vapi. It's kind of weird where we need to do a little bit of configuration, or I would say create TypeScript types, but we don't really need it. It's completely fine just to say any in this case because it's really, really simple. So first I'll just say if message type is equal to transcript and if it is finalized. So let's say message.transcript type is equal to final. In this case, we can add this to our state. So here I'll go into the if check and I'll say set messages. We're gonna get all the previous messages, right? I'll say get all the previous messages and just add the new message at the end. And where is this new message coming from? Well, it is the variable that we will create. Let's say new message, and this could be an object where we can add the content. Let's say message.transcript, and we can also add the role. So we can say message.role, which is probably going to be assistant or AI. I don't know how Vapi called this. If you really wanted to, you can console log this. I think we're missing the brackets. No, we don't really. What this says. Alright, so here it says you're putting the type where you didn't really put anything. So let's say this can take any and it should be happy with us. This is not really happy because of the ESLint. We're going to get rid of all these TypeScript related errors a little bit later in the video. So when you put any TypeScript or ESLint, it doesn't really get happy with you, but that's fine. Let's save and give it a go once again.
Hello, Brock. I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm here to help you build a personal.
Alright, so I'm silly. We forgot to add the JSX. Now we are keeping track of the state, but we are never displaying it, right? I just forgot that. So let's go ahead and handle this to-do. Here we would like to put the message container right here. So first I'll delete this to-do text because we're about to do it. Let's say message container will be right here. So I'll say if messages.length is greater than 0, we would like to run this part, where we'll have a div that says I'm getting the reference, the ref as message container ref. And then we'll have a bunch of different class names just to make this look really, really nice. This should be going inside the opening div. Then here I'd like to have one more div that's going to be kind of like space out container. I'll say space y of 3. And we'll say go ahead, get every single message, map through it, and for each message, let's say we're going to get the message as well as the index. Then we can return this part. So I'll copy and paste and walk you through it. It's 4 or 5 lines of code. We're going to put the div, which is the container. Here we go. We'll have the fade in effect that is coming from the global.css. Then we will have either you are descending the message or the AI, right? If role is equal to assistant, it will be, let's say, code flex AI, but else you are the sender, and then the message content, whatever that is. Then once the call ended, we can say your program has been created and we are redirecting you to the profile. So this is what'll we have, right? I'll go ahead, save, and give it a go under the generate screen. Let's say start the call and test this out.
Hello, Brock. I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm here to help you build a personalized diet and weekly gym workout plan that fits your lifestyle. I'll need to gather some details from you to create something that's truly effective. Are you ready to get started?
Yes, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so as you can tell, like we are getting the transcript in the UI. We have a little bit of delay. It's because AI need to process and just decide what you have just said, right? We are talking and in real time, it tries to understand what you just said, put it into a sentence and display it. So that's why we have this check actually, where we say the type is equal to final, right? Once AI finalize their thoughts, once the transcript is ready, only then we would like to update the UI. So that's why we are getting a little bit of delay because of this if check, but it is like inevitable. You will always have a little bit of delay. And now you can take a look at your Vapi dashboard under the, let's say, overview. You can see how many number of calls you had. Previously off screen, I did some more, which was yesterday, I believe, but today we have done 3. So it is working completely fine, up to date, without any issues. And you can see, let me take a look at it. Like you can get your details, the call details. So if you scroll, you should be able to see this one, and that was failed because we cut it in the middle, right? We hang up. So customer ended the call, right? We were the one who ended the call. So this is the start time, duration, and if you clicked it, you should be able to get the details. Like we have the transcript, the voice, you can listen to it.
Hello, Brock. I hope you're doing well.
Right? So it is completely correct and you can take a look at it. There are even the analysis section. Alright, so this is something that you can take a look at it from the dashboard. So overall, this is the workflow that we have built. We are definitely missing a step where we need to send an API request properly, but other than this, everything is working as expected. We are able to start the call, say hi to the user, gather some information, and next we're going to update this endpoint, just like what we have done in the Clerk dashboard. So we have added a webhook, right, an endpoint, so that we can create the user in the database. And for the backend, we are using the Convex backend, right? This is our URL. We'll just put it right here, but the endpoint will be different. So previously we had something like Clerk webhook. Here we'll have Vapi generate program. You can call this part anything as you wish, but this is the one that I'll be going with. So long story short, we are going to update this endpoint where the Convex will take the request with this endpoint, and then we will write some code to generate a program using Gemini. And finally, we'll say thank you to the user and end the call. So this is something that I'd like to leave for the incoming sections, and I'd like to end this current section right here. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. So in this section, we would like to complete our workflow, and the only step that we are missing is the API request. As we talked about it previously, we would like to update this test endpoint with the actual one. So what we have done in the Clerk dashboard is to add our Convex backend, which was ending with convex.site. So we're going to go ahead, copy this, and put it right here. So instead of example.com, this will be our actual backend / Vapi generate program. You can call this part anything, but this is the name that I'll be going with. Then we would like to send some body when we send the request. Now why this is the case? So just think about it. AI will start the call, gather some information from the user, and then AI needs to send this information to the endpoint so that Gemini can create a program, right? So it gathered all the data and it needs to send it. So that's why we're going to add this body. We will say you're going to send the age, and here's the value. You're going to just say save. Then you're going to send the weight, and here is the value that you have just gathered from the user. Then same for the height. I'll basically go ahead and add all these fields one by one. If you wanted to, you can speed up the video, but I'll not cut it and I'll just leave it here. Let's say injuries, then select this variable. We're going to add the fitness_goal. We'll do the same thing for workout days. Then the fitness level, let's say _level, it should be. And then finally, the dietary restrictions. Now previously, I think I had a typo here. It was diet ET, so I just fixed it. So this is the correct English word, dietary restrictions, right? I'd like to type this out, and I think I'll do some typos. That's why I'd like to copy this name. So I just copied it, and I'll paste it right here so that I don't really have any typos. And then I'll select this variable. So we have gathered all this info, we put it into the body. There is one more field that I'd like to add, which is going to be user_ID. And the value for this will be user_ID. Now let's go ahead, save it. We got this field, and to be able to send this field, we previously had a to-do in the generate program page. So if you scroll to the bottom where we have a to-do, so when we call the Vapi, we said that we need to send the user_ID. So this is what I'll be doing. I'll say user.id. And this user is coming from Clerk, right? So let's say user.id. All right, now we are able to get the full name that we are sending in this params, as well as the user ID. So we will get this user ID to be able to know which user will have this generated program, right? Because every single user will log into our application and will try to generate a program with our AI. And AI should know which user is which one, right? So that's why we're adding this field. I hope that makes sense. This is all we have to do in this dashboard. I'll just go ahead and save my workflow. And looks like I got an error. Let me just try to save this once again. And if it does not work, we'll see the solution. All right, so it doesn't work. Let me see why this is the case. So I have just refreshed the page and it seems like it is working. It has been saved. This is the exact same thing that we have just added a second ago. All right, now we would like to go ahead, try to build this endpoint, then try to handle the logic. So I will go visit the http.ts file that we have. So we had one endpoint for Clerk webhooks, and we're gonna have one more, say http.route, and I can zoom in. We'll have this object, we'll say the path will be equal to /Vapi /generate -program. This is what we put in our dashboard. Then we'll put the method, which is going to be post, and then the handler function, which is going to be looking exactly as this one. So let me copy that, paste this in. We're going to close the arrow function, just like that. Then we're going to have a try and catch block. The very first thing we would like to do, grab the data from the request. So I will say const, you can call this anything. I'll say payload, await request.json, and then we can basically destructure anything from the payload. So here I'll say destructure some data from the payload, and this data will be whatever we pass. So it's going to be all these fields, right? And instead of typing this out, I'll go ahead, copy this and paste it so that we don't really waste any time. We got the user ID, age, height, weight, and the rest of it. Now that we have the payload, we would like to send this data to Gemini, right? This is the AI that we're going to be using to generate a program for workout and diet plan. But now we don't really have that set up. So we need to go ahead and visit Google AI Studio. You can search for it and visit this link. Then you would say something like use a Gemini and create an API key. So just click to this button. This is the URL that you should be in. Then click to this create API key button, right? So I have already done this. I have an API key that I can copy. Once you have done the same thing, just go ahead, copy that, and we're going to paste it into the Convex environment variables. Now, why are we pasting it here instead of our .env file? Well, it's because we're going to be using that environment variable under the Convex folder, right? This is a Convex file. That's why we need to add it into our backend. So here I'll say something like Gemini API key, then paste the value and save this, and it should be good to go. And we're going to be using a package to be able to interact with the Gemini. So for this, I will open up my terminal and just say npm install at Google generative AI. All right, so this has been installed. We can scroll to the top and try to import it. Let me grab my code, paste this in. This is the import statement that we have, and we'll be using this. So first, let's create an instance. So I'll say const gen AI, which stands for generative AI. Then we can instantiate something, right? I'll say new, call the class. Then we'll like to put our API key. So I'll say process.env, and the key that we have just put, which is Gemini API key. So just make sure that you don't really have any typos and make the TypeScript happy by adding the exclamation point. Now that we got our variable, we can scroll to the bottom and try to use a specific model. And we'll basically try to just configure something, right? I'll go here, I'll say const model. And for now, for the case, just say console log error creating the plan. All right, so we'll say model, we'll say gen AI dot get generative model. Then here we need to pass some objects to configure it. So I'll have my object, then I would like to paste the fields, which is going to be around 4 lines of code. So this is the Gemini model that I'd like to use, and here are some configuration that you can take a look at it from the documentation in detail, but I just put a comment. So what temperature does is you would like to lower it to get more predictable outputs, and the meme type is going to be application JSON. All right, so we just got the model, and now we would like to create some prompts where we would like to have a workout plan and let's say a diet plan. Now I'll say const workout prompt, and like if you want to build an actual application, this should be really long so that you are explaining everything in detail to AI. And this is what I have done. I have prepared something for you that you don't really need to type this out. Go ahead and find the copy paste list, copy this entire thing and paste this in. Now I'll walk you through it. So this is just a giant string with all kinds of information that AI needs. So we are saying to the AI, to the Gemini, hey, you're an experienced fitness coach creating a personalized workout plan based on this age, height, weight, etc., etc. And as a professional coach, keep this in mind. You can read it. I don't really want to waste any time. And then we'll say, here is the schema instruction that you should keep in mind. So for sets and reps, always use numbers. Do not use something like as many as possible reps or until failure, so on and so forth. We always want to get numbers. And we'll just even give more and more information. Here is the exact structure that you should return as the response. And finally, one more warning to AI. So this is the prompt string that we're going to be using. I will go ahead and just say const workout result. We're going to get some result by calling model, which is our Gemini model that we have configured above. We'll say generate content, and here's your prompt, which is going to be the workout prompt. Then this is going to give us some text that we would like to get that value. And now this is AI, right? I cannot really trust this 100%. Even though I said do not use things like to failure or as many as possible, I don't know. This is AI. It can still give me some string value. So for that reason, I would like to create two helper functions so that I can validate the input, right? So let's just say validate the input coming from AI. And I just have two different really simple functions that I'd like to provide. So just scroll to the bottom. You should be able to see this part. Copy this. We have two different functions, one to validate the diet plan and the other one to validate the workout plan. So you can put it right here and it should be good to go. So you can take a look at the code. It's really basic. All it does is to validate the data, right? All right. So we'll just scroll to the bottom. We would like to validate our workout plan first. Now, since this is text, first I'd like to parse this and then we are going to validate it. Here we have some warnings coming from ESLint. We can ignore this. We're going to fix it at the end. Then now let's get our prompt for diet plan, which is this one. Copy it and paste it right here. So this is the exact same thing. This time we are telling AI that you're an experienced nutrition coach creating a personalized diet plan based on these values. Keep this in mind, keep the schema in mind, and just make sure you don't really have any mistakes. But still, this is AI. I cannot really trust this 100%. So I'll try to validate my data, right? So I just grab the result in text, then I'll just validate it. I'll put the same comment right here. All right, now that we have validated everything, right, we would like to save this to our database. So here I'll add a comment. I'll say save to our database, which is going to be Convex. And now this means we need to create something in the database, which also means we need to create a mutation. So let's go ahead and visit a file under the Convex called plans.ts. and we would like to create a mutation right here in this file. Let's say export const create plan. This is going to be our mutation. So let's try to import it. This is going to be taking some arguments as well as the handler function. So I will get my v from convex values for the validation. And we'll say you'll take some arguments as well as you will have a handler function that's going to be async. It's going to be taking the context as well as the request as the params. Now we're going to go into the arguments. If we want to create a plan, what do we need to pass? Let's open up our schema and take a look at it. Each plan has a user ID, a name, a workout plan, a diet plan, as well as if it is active or not. So all in all, we have 5 fields, and these are the fields that we would like to pass. So I will say user ID will be v.string, name will be string, and for the workout plan, we just need to pass this entire type, right? So what I'll be doing is to provide this to you so that you don't really need to type this out. If you scroll to bottom or top, you should be able to see this part. Go ahead, copy it, which is the arguments for create plan mutation. So delete this entire part and paste this in. Or I should say delete the arguments only, not the handler. And then just put a comment or comma, sorry, I can't talk. Here we go, we got the arguments as well as the handler. And from the arguments, we have 5 fields: user ID, name, workout plan, and diet plan, as well as the is active. Alright, so here we can see this is just the types, not really important. No need to type this out from scratch. Now we're gonna go into the handler and try to create a new plan. So you might be thinking, all right, let's just go ahead and only say something like await db, it should be context.db, insert into the plans table. And the thing that we'd like to insert will be arguments itself, right? Whatever we got. So it should be, I believe. So why did I call this as request? It should be arguments. My bad. All right. So you might be thinking this should be good to go. Well, that's correct, but there is one more step that we would like to do. Just before we create a new plan, we would like to deactivate the previous ones. If you take a look at the demo, this is what I have. In the profile page, here we can see we have 3 different plans, but the very latest one is the active. These are deactivated. So this is what we would like to do. And instead of doing this line by line, I'll paste this and we'll go through it. So we're going to go ahead into the database under the plans table. We will say with index, this is the index that we have by user underscore ID. Then we would like to basically find that user or all the plans for this user, and we would like to find those that are active. So we got the active plans. Now we will try to deactivate every single one of them. So I'll say for const plan of active plans, basically get every single plan and make the is active field to be false. Since we are updating a field, we'll be using the patch method. Now here, this says you're having some type issues. For this, I'd like to visit my schema. And here, instead of saying v.id, I'll say v.string just to make everyone happy. All right, now let's say we don't really have any errors. Once again, we have deactivated every single previous plans. Then we have created a very new one. And this is going to give us the plan ID. And we can just return this out of this function. All right. So this is the entire function. It's actually really, really simple, but just because we have added some arguments, it looks really long, but not really. All right, so we are going to go ahead right here, then try to call that mutation that we have just created. So here I'll say await context.run mutation. And this is going to give us the plan ID if everything went successfully, right? Here we'll say api.plans.create plan. This is the mutation that we'd like to run, and we're going to put a couple of different fields, which is going to be the user ID. that is equal to the user ID coming from AI assistant from the Vapi. Then we're going to put the diet plan. We'll say it is active. This is going to be equal to true because this is the latest one that has just been generated. Then let's say the workout plan, and finally the name. Now the name will have a structure. Let me display this pretty quickly. So as you can tell, we have the, let's say, the fitness goal, if it is muscle gain, mass gain, if it is things like, let's say, burning fat, whatever that is, then we are going to put this text called plan dash and today's date. So this entire thing that you see is the name of the plan, okay? Let's try to build it. As I said, we'll take the fitness goal. We'll say plan. We're going to put a dash and then today's date. So I'll say new date and to locale, let's say date string. All right, so that's gonna be it for these arguments. Once this has been generated successfully, we can just say return a new response to the user. Let's say response, and what I'd like to do is just copy and paste. It's really simple. All we do, stringify the data and return it with a status code of 200, which means okay. Then for the catch, let me try to paste this as well. So status of 500 and some stuff for debugging purposes. Now let's save. Hopefully everything should be working fine without any issues. We have set it up our path, and we have the exact same path in our dashboard, right? This is what we have. We are sending all the data that we have gathered from the AI assistant. Then finally, we are creating some data with the help of Gemini, save it to the database, and then send a response to the client. Now let's save and try to see this in action. Maybe here we can just put a console log just to say payload is here and try to display it. All right, so I'll save this. Let's kill this terminal and just double check we don't really have any errors in the Convex terminal as well as the Next.js. And now I'd like to give you a quick demo where I'll be talking with AI. Once our talk has ended, it should generate something, a plan, and put it into our database. Currently, we don't really have any data. All right, so let's try to give it a go. So I will click to the start call button and give you a quick demo with AI.
Hello, Barack. I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm here to help you build a personalized diet and weekly gym workout plan that fits your lifestyle. I'll need to gather some details from you to create something that's truly effective. Are you ready to get started?
Yes, let's get started.
Great. Could you please tell me your age?
I am 23 years old.
Got it. Thanks. Could you please tell me your height?
Let's say it's 172 centimeters.
Could you please provide your height in either meters or centimeters as a single number, like 172 centimeters or 1.72 meters?
Well, that's actually exactly what I've done, but just because you asked, I'll go ahead and give you the same thing once again. It's 1.72 meters.
Thank you for clarifying. Could you also share your weight?
Let's say it's 65 kilograms.
Thanks. Do you have any existing injuries or health conditions we should consider?
No, not really.
All right. Now, what's your primary fitness goal? For instance, weight loss, muscle gain, or something else?
It should be muscle gain.
Got it. How many days per week are you available for exercise?
I think we can go with 5 per week.
Perfect. What's your current fitness experience level? Beginner, intermediate, or advanced?
I'll go with advanced.
Thanks. Last question. Do you have any dietary restrictions or food allergies? I should be aware of?
No, not really.
Thank you for sharing this information. I'm creating your personalized fitness and nutrition plan right now. You'll be redirected to your profile screen. Just refresh the page in a few seconds to view your complete program. We hope that this program will help you to reach your goals. Have a good day.
Thanks. And then it'll just hang up the call. As we can see, we are redirected to the profile page. We don't really have any content here because we didn't build it, but this is something that we'll do in the next section. But we should have something in the database, hopefully. I'll go ahead and visit my plans table. Here we go. This is exactly what we were expecting to get. We got the name, which was to gain some muscle, right? Today's date, exactly what we have. It is active. This is the diet plan. We got in the same structure that we have expected. So we have like lunch, maybe we have breakfast before that, we have the dinner and some evening snack. Then we have workout plan with exercises. Each has a day, some routines, which has name, reps, sets, etc. etc. So we got everything that we expected. And we even have the creation time as well as an ID that is generated by Convex out of the box. So that means our entire workflow is working without any problems, right? We start the call, say hi to the user, gather the info, and then send the request to our endpoint, which was this one, and Gemini has generated some plans, then save it to the database, and finally our AI said, thank you for sharing this information and have a good day. Now just make sure that if in your case, if this did not work, make sure that you put this endpoint correctly. So in your case, this part will be different, but you can put the same endpoint right here and just make sure you don't really have any extra spaces at the end. So if you put it like this, it's not gonna work, all right? So just make sure this is completely fine, correct, without any extra spaces or any extra characters. All right, so this is my endpoint that I'll save. This is the entire workflow that I have. Looks like I got an error. Do we have any typos? It should be a program. At the beginning, I don't really have any empty spaces. All right. So it looks like everything has done successfully. In the next section, we can go ahead, take this data, right, and display it in the profile page. And I almost forgot, but we got an issue that says meeting has ended. So I think this is related to Vapi. I don't know why we got this. Seems like everything has been done correctly in our case. We're going to handle this if this becomes a trouble later in the video. Alright, so for now you can just ignore this completely. And with that, we can move on with the next section. In this section, we're going to build the profile page. This is how that look at the moment. And at the end of the section, this is the output that we would like to have. So we're going to have a header with the user profile, then our plans. So in this example, this user had 3 different plans. The latest one will be the active, the other ones will be inactive. And then they can switch between the workout plan view as well as the diet plan. So let's keep this in mind and try to build this page. Before we try to build this page, we need to create a function that is going to fetch the plans from the database. And for this, we're going to need to use what we call a query. So under the Convex plans file, we would like to create a query to be able to get user plans. So I will create my function called get user plans, and we're going to call the query method from Convex. Now you can call this anything technically, right? But this is the name that we're going to go with. It should make something sense, right? It should make sense. Here we'll have the arguments, which is going to be the user ID. That's going to be type of string. Now we are getting user ID. It's because so that we know which user is trying to fetch their plan, right? Because let's say we will have a bunch of different users in the database, like 100 different users, but this user has only 3 different plans. So we will say, give me only my plans, right? I hope that makes sense. Then we'll say, have a handler function that we can handle the logic. This is going to be taking the context as well as the arguments. Then we can build the logic. So we'll like to fetch the plans. Let's say we'll say await context.db query under the plans table. We're going to say we have an index. Let's try to use it, and I'll just format this in this way. I'll say with index by user ID, where we will take the query. We'll say query dot equal to the user ID field, and we'll say args dot user ID. And then we'd like to just collect the plans. Just before I collect, I would like to say order this in the descending order. And finally, we'll say return the plans. So this is what we're gonna have for this query. Super simple. All we do, fetch all the plans that this user has. So we will go into the profile page. Let's shrink everything under the app. We have this page. Now we're gonna need a couple of different components that we will be using in this page. So for this, I will visit the components folder and I'll have a profile header component, let's say .tsx, and generate this. Then we're gonna have what we call the corner elements .tsx, and we'll have maybe a couple of different components. For now, let's leave it as it is. So I will go into the profile page, and first things first, I would like to mark this with use client directive, because we'll be doing some client stuff related things. So first things first, I'm gonna get the user from Clerk. So I'll say use user, and then I'll get the user ID. Let's say user.id. Then we'll like to get all the plans that this current user has. So I'll say all plans. We had a query, right? Now it's time to call that. I'll say use query that is coming from Convex, and we'll say API.plans call my get user plans. Then this was accepting an argument which is called as user ID. Now this says maybe this is undefined, so let's say as string typecast this so that it is happy with us, and this should be equal to all plans. Now we would like to check which plan is selected, right? Depending on that, we will update the UI. So currently this one is selected. If you click to this one, this would be selected, etc. For this, we'll have a state. I'll say selected plan ID and set selected plan ID. This is going to be equal to use state of null initially, and this could be either null or it could be equal to a string value. Then we'll go below and we'll just check for the active plan. I'll say const active plan. Let's say all plans dot find one that has the is active field equal to be true. And then we're going to get the current plan. Let's say current plan. If selected plan ID is not null, we will run this. Let's say all plans dot find. We will go over every single plan and find this one. Let's say underscore ID is equal to selected plan ID. Else we can just say, I think, the active plan. So we're going to find the current selected plan as well as the active plan because we'll be using them in the return statement. Now I can go into the return statement, have a section with some classes. Here is what I'll have. Then after this section, I will have a div, let's say class name, maybe just not any class name, but this will be a wrapper. Do we really need it? So I think we don't really need this div. Instead, what I'll be doing is to put my profile header component. So let's get this and we can build the UI. So there is no logic at all. All we have to do is display the corner elements here, right? We have 4 different elements. This is what I call the corner elements, and we're using this in multiple places, right? In this component, in this one, and in this one. So that's why we make this to be reusable. Then we have the profile page, the full name, and then the email. So let's try to build it. I'll go under the profile header, we can put the user details as a prop. So I'll say user, pass the user that we have, which is type of user resource. So we'll go under the profile header. We'll say we will destructure the user from props and make the TypeScript happy. We'll say this will be type of user resource, which is going to be coming from Clerk. So I'll say import user resource from @Clerk, but not Next.js, it will be types. And then let's try to build the UI. So I will go ahead and delete this part, have a return statement with a div. So I'll just put this and close this off. We have a bunch of different classes just to make it look nice. Then I'll get my corner elements. Now this will be 10 lines of code that is only related to UI. Here we have it. We have 4 different divs that is going to be the corner elements. So once you have done this, we'll go here and try to import it. Then below to it, we would like to actually display the rest of the UI. So I'll have a div with some classes. Let me grab all the classes that we need. And right below to this div, I'll have one more div that is going to be taking the user image URL. So inside this div, this is what I'll have. Let me save so that you can see it clearly. If user image URL existed, we will display the image, but else we're gonna put the very first character of their name. And then we have this online indicator. Let's save this component as well as this one. Why this is not really happy with us? Let's see. All right, so maybe we should say this will be user or null or undefined. And we can say if there is no user, just return null. This should fix the error, but here, all right, now we got rid of this error. Let's try to see. I'll refresh the profile page. Seems like this did not work because I didn't save this file. And this is what we have. The only problem here is that the online indicator is on the right hand side. Let's try to fix it. I will go right here and maybe give this a class name of relative. And this has been fixed. Now we can build the rest of it, which will be this part. So after this online indicator and after this closing tag, I'll go below and just paste this in where we have a flex of 1 that holds the full name as well as the user active text, then their email address. Let's save. Hopefully this should be working as expected. There we go. Now the next thing is to display our plans. I'll go into the page and we're going to put it right after the profile header component. Now I will say that if all plans.length is greater than 0, we would like to run this part, else we would like to run this part. Now this is not really happy with you because it says maybe this part is undefined. So we can go ahead and say something like if all plans existed and then check for this. Now we got rid of that error. And we'll say if there are some plans, we can just return a div for now that says you got the plans. But in the else case, we would like to return something like no fitness plan found. You should create one from the generate page. So here I'll go ahead inside and I'll say no fitness plan component. And we can create this under the components folder. Now, once again, this will be completely UI related, no logic at all. So I will paste this around 30 lines of code and let me display this. So we have the corner elements component at the very top. We have no fitness plans yet text, some description, and then the link that will take us to the generate program page. Let's try to save this. And just before that, we need to import the component. Alright, since we have a plan for this user, it says you got the plans. But specifically, I will say this part if is equal to false. this will be the output that we're gonna get. If I click to this button, I should be navigated to the generate page. Let's do Control Z and put the actual check. Now, in this part, we're gonna need a bunch of different UI elements. So I will open up my brackets and go inside. First, we'll have a div with some spacing. I'll say class name space y of 8. And at the very top, I will put my plan selector section, which is going to be this part. Let me display. All right, so this is the part that we are trying to build. Let's select this and go right here. Then I'll have a div, and let me close this off. So these are all the classes that we need for the parent element. Then we will have the corner elements once again. Let's import it. After the corner elements, we're gonna put the total number of plans. So we can have 5 lines of code where we'll just say your fitness plans, and here is the total number that you have. Let's save and take a look at it. All right, currently we have only one. This is exactly what we got. Right below it, we will display these buttons. So I will go after the total text. We have 2 different divs, right? Just go below to them and put one more div. That's going to be taking the class name of flex, flex of wrap, and gap of 2. And I'll give a little bit space. Then here on this div, we will say all plans dot map. For every single plan, we would like to return this part where we will have a button element coming from Shadcn UI. All right, now inside of the button, we will have some content, but first let's give a key. I'll say plan dot underscore ID. Then we're gonna give the on click of, let's say, set selected plan ID, whatever the plan ID is. And then we will have the class name. So the class name will be a little bit dynamic. So I can provide this to you. Basically, these are going to be the classes that the button will have no matter what happens. But if this is the selected button, these are going to be the classes, but else this will be the classes, right? These styles. Then we can go inside. We can just say put the plan dot name, and we also want to put the active indicator. So if it is active, we're going to see this text, but we only want to see this if plan is active. So I will say if this is the case, go ahead and return this span element that says active with these specific classes. Now let's save. Hopefully this should be the output that we have. So when you click to it, let me refresh. So when you click to it, it's active and the styles are changing. And right below to this, we're gonna put the plan details, right? So this is the part that we are trying to build at the moment. Let's visit VS Code. After the button, let's scroll, we have the button, and I think we'll just go 2 divs below, right? So after the button, we have 2 different divs. We'll go right here and just add a comment, say plan details. Now I'll say if there is a current plan, then go ahead, return this statement. We will have a div that is gonna have a couple of different class names that I'd like to just paste. Then once again, we will put the corner elements. Then we'll go below and just have a div that I'd like to copy and paste. This will give you the plans. So let's just paste it, try to take a look at it. All right, so this is the name of the plan that we are displaying. And then we will go below to this age 3, below to this div. We're gonna have a component called tabs. Now this is gonna be coming from Shadcn. If you have never used it, let me pretty quickly display this. So just search for tabs, and depending on the different tabs, you're gonna get different output on the UI. And this is exactly what we would like to build. We will have a workout plan tab as well as the diet plan. Whenever we click to them, the UI will update. So to be able to install it, we need to grab this command, open up our terminal, let's create a new one and paste this in. Let's say use legacy pure depths. Here we go. It's been installed. So I will say import the tabs and make sure it is coming from the components folder and not from Redux UI. Under the tabs, we will have a couple of different props, like default value will be the workout, and the class name, let's say width will be full. Now you can pause the video and take a look at the documentation for the usage, but basically we have different components like tabs list, tabs trigger, tabs content, so on and so forth. And this is exactly what we're going to be doing. Everything is coming from the documentation. So I will have tabs list. Let's import it from components. Then we'll go below. Maybe first we can add some classes that I'd like to copy and paste. That is super simple. Then we will go into it. We'll say tabs trigger. That is going to be coming from the components folder. Then inside of that, we will have again some props, like the value of this will be workout, and then the class name I can copy and paste, and then we'll just go inside, put a dumbbell icon, right? Or dumbbell, however we pronounce it. Let's say dumbbell icon will have class name of mr2, height of 4 and width of 4, or shortly you can say size of 4. And as the text, I'll just say workout plan. So that's gonna be it for our very first tabs trigger. We're gonna build the next one, which is for the diet. So I'll go below, paste this in. We're gonna have the apple icon that will say diet plan next to it. We can save and we will go above, or I'm sorry, we'll go outside of the tabs list. So these were the triggers, right? The buttons. Then we'll like to build the content. So here I'll say tabs, and maybe first scroll a little bit. Let's say tabs content, and just make sure that this is coming from the components folder. And within this, we will have a couple of different divs, but first maybe we can add a value field. I'll say this is the workout tab. So as always, we will have a div to give some spacing. I'll say class name space y of 4, and here I'll put the schedule. So you can copy and paste. We're gonna have the calendar icon, and let's save. Just take a look at the output. Here we can see we're just going slowly, but the first thing we got is the schedule tab, or the schedule section, I should say. Now next we're gonna build accordions, right? This is what we call an accordion component. And you can take a look at it once again from the documentation. It should be accordion. Basically, it is this component that could be expanded or expandable, right? So I'll copy this, try to install it first, paste this in, and let's say use legacy pure depths. Now that this has been installed, we can easily use it. Right after this span and div, go ahead and create this accordion component. Again, coming from the components folder, just make sure it is not coming from the Redux UI. Then we can add a type, which could be either multiple or single. Here we'll go with the multiple option. Then let's give some class name of space y of 4. Then we'll go inside and just try to get the current plan dot workout plan dot exercises and just try to map over it. So each exercise, let's say, will have the exercise day as well as the index. So here I'll go ahead and try to return this part where we will have the accordion item component coming from the components once again. Then we'll just go ahead, add some classes, or maybe first a key to make the React happy. I'll say we can add the index as the key. Value will be exercise day.day, and this is completely type safe. Here we can see thanks to Convex. Then we'll go ahead, add some classes. I'll give a little bit of space, say class name, and just provide this to you. So here I'll say this will be border and the rest of it. Now, as the content, we would like to have the trigger. So as you can see from the documentation, like this is the trigger, right? When you click to it, only then this happens. So we would like to first add that component. We will say accordion trigger component, import it, and then this is going to be taking a couple of different classes that I have prepared already. Oops, let me put it correctly. Here we go. We will go inside and just have the actual content. That will be the length of the routines. So we're going to display the day as well as, the length. So let's say, take a look at the output. If I click to Monday, looks like nothing happens. Why this is the case? So this is the case, it's because we only built the trigger. So currently we don't really have any errors. It is working, but we just don't have the content. All we have to do, right after the trigger, add the accordion content. So this is another component that we're going to import from the components. And this will be taking class name of padding bottom of 4, and horizontally it'll get 4 as well. We'll go in, we'll say div, and just add some classes that will give spacing horizontally and just a little bit of margin top. Then we'll like to map through the routines. So I will go inside, I'll say exercise day dot routines and map through it. So we can get, once again, the routine itself. Let's say routine and the routine index. And we're going to return this part, which is going to be a div. If you don't mind, I would like to copy and paste and walk you through it. So I'll just save and maybe zoom out so that you can see it entirely. So this is what I have just copied and pasted. We have a div that is the parent div with some classes. We have one more for the routine name, sets, and reps. Then we have the description. Let's take a look at it. So here we can see, I'll just first close everything and open Monday. This is what we got. The name, sets, and number of reps. We can open up like a couple of different ones. And this is because we are using the mode of multiple, right? So if you were to use single, one would be open at a time. Now Monday is turned on, and if you clicked that, it would be closed off. So I think multiple makes sense here in this case. That's the reason why I am going with the type of multiple. And to be honest, this is the entire content that we have for the tab content of workout. Now what I'll be doing is sharing this, go below it, and put the tabs content for the diet, right? I'll say value will be equal to diet, and this will be the content. Now, since it is the exact same thing, what I'd like to do, just copy it, provide it to you, and walk you through it. So right here, I'll go inside, paste this in. Don't panic, this is not that much. So we have a div. Let me first save. Alright, so this is the parent div that I just pasted. Inside we have one div, one more, right? This is the decoration, and just one more, right? So this is the first one that will put the daily calorie target, and this is how we are getting it. Then we have this decoration. Then we are mapping through the meals. For every single meal, we will put the name as well as the food name. So here we are doing a trick that I'll explain just in a second, but we are basically displaying the food itself. Let's save and take a look at the output. Alright, so I'll just refresh this page. We can have the workout plan as well as the diet plan, right? Our tabs are changing. Then we have all the meals and the foods that we have. Now this trick that you see is basically adding a 0 at the beginning so that it's looking a little bit clean. So I just zoomed in. This is the entire thing that we have for both of the tabs. Now everything is working as expected. I will go ahead, visit the generate page and try to create a new plan so that I can prove you that this one will be deactivated. So this is the one that we have created. Now I'll just try to start a call and create a new plan.
Hello, Barak. I hope you're doing well. Today I'm here to help you build a personalized diet. Thank you for sharing this information. I'm creating your personalized fitness and nutrition plan right now. Be redirected to your profile screen. Just refresh the page in a few seconds to view your complete program. We hope that this program will help you to reach your goals. Have a good day.
Bye. Alright, so here we can see we are redirected to the profile screen. The previous one is deactivated and the latest one is active, and we can switch between those, right? If I click to this, here we can see the days are changing because the plans are different. Here I said I would like to have 4 days, and here it is 5 days. Now the diet plan should be different, the workout plan should be different. So basically it is completely 2 different plans. So as you can tell, everything is working as expected, but we just have one issue. Whenever the program has been generated, we got a problem, right? From here, it says you have one issue, that is meeting has ended. To be able to fix it, you need to visit generate program page and just add this use effect at the very beginning, right? So after your states, go ahead and add this and it should be fixed. What this does, basically it checks if the error message is equal to meeting has ended. In this case, it is going to ignore that, right? So once you have added this use effect, you can basically test it out once again. This is what I'll be doing just to prove you that. So I will say start the call and quickly answer the question. Once program has been generated, we shouldn't be getting any errors. So let me go ahead and walk you through it pretty quickly, and maybe I can speed up the video.
I'm creating your personalized fitness and nutrition plan right now. You'll be redirected to your profile screen. Just refresh the page in a few seconds to view your complete program. We hope that this program will help you to reach your goals. Have a good day.
Thanks. So now it has been ended, and hopefully we shouldn't be getting any errors. Here we go, we don't really have anything. It's because we have, let's say we have ignored it with this use effect. So if you open up your terminal, maybe you would be able to see the error itself. Here we can see it says ignoring the known error, which was meeting has ended. Now we are able to see this because of this console log that we have, and I hope that makes sense. So I don't really know why do we get this error in the first place, but I think it's related to maybe the workflows that we have right here. But the important thing is how to solve it, and this is exactly what we are doing. And with that, I think that's going to be it for this entire project. The only thing we left is maybe some optimizations, and at the end, just deploy it. So with that, I'll see you in the next section where we will add one more webhook just to make this application completely working as expected. So I'll see you in the next section. So this is a section where I called as optimizations, so we can fix some errors that we have that are related to ESLint, as well as adding one more webhook event. Alright, so first let's get started with the ESLint errors that we have. I'll just zoom in and visit a file. Let's say it'll be generate program, because here we have a type error coming from ESLint, right? So I would like to copy this rule, and we are going to go ahead and just turn this off. For this, you need to visit the ESLint file, and then I'll just shrink the left hand side. I will put another object. Let's go below. I'll say rules, which is going to be another object, and then we can just paste what we have copied. This is going to be the key, and we can say just turn this off. If you save and visit the generate program page, now we don't really have this as an error. If you wanted to, you can change this to be something like warning. Now this is not an error, but instead it is a warning. But what I'd like to do is just turn this off completely. Let's save. Now we don't really have any errors for this case. And let's just scroll to the bottom. Do we have any other warnings? Yes, we have. So this is coming from Next.js, from ESLint, where they say instead of using the image element coming from HTML, you should use the Next.js image. But I'd like to turn this off as well. So I'll just add a comment, paste this in, and just say turn this off. Let's save. Hopefully we should be able to get rid of that warning as well, as we can tell. Now if we visit the HTTP file, previously we had some errors when it comes to this type. Now we don't really have that one as well, thanks to this rule. So that's our ESLint fix. The other excuse me, the other thing we'd like to add is gonna be another check for the event. So let me scroll to the top where we have this Clerk webhook endpoint. We are listening for the user created event, but now we also want to handle the user updated event. Now why this is the case? Let me pretty quickly display this. I will go into my profile and I'll say manage account that I'd like to update my profile image. This is currently what we have in the Clerk as well as in the database. So I'll pretty quickly go ahead, copy my image URL. Let me copy the entire thing without the quotes, and I will put it into a new tab. This is what we got. This has been stored under the Clerk dashboard, right? And in our database as well. Now I'll go ahead, change my profile image. I'll click to this and I will just upload a new one. So I am just uploading this one. Here we go. It's been updated. Then I'll say cancel now. As we can tell, this has been updated completely, but there is an issue. This image URL is still the previous one that we had. So I will copy this and I'll put it as a new tab. It's the exact same thing. The user has been updated in Clerk, but the change has not been added to Convex, to our database. So we can make this work with this event that we are subscribed to. And if you don't already, you need to visit the configure. And we have done this previously already, but just in case, go visit find your webhook endpoint and you need to subscribe to this event as well. So we have two different events that we are subscribed to. And we're gonna listen for the user.updated. So I will go right here, delete the to-do. We are about to implement it. I'll say if event type is equal to user.updated. In this case, we would like to update the data in the database as well. So what I'll be doing, just grab every single field that we have. Then I will get the email. And by the way, user might update their email address or their full name. We would like to check for everything. In the example, I only showed you the image URL, but you need to keep everything in mind. So we're gonna get their name, email. We would like to keep track of it as well. Then I'll have a try catch block. So in the catch, we can basically throw a 500 error or response. But in the try, we would like to run a mutation, just like what we have done above. So we'll say context.run mutation. Instead of syncing the user, we will say update the user. So I'll say context.run mutation, api.users.update user. We are going to create this just in a second. And here are the arguments that we're going to pass. Clerk ID, the email, let's say name, and we'll say the image, which is going to be this image URL. Now let's go ahead and try to create this under the users. So here I'll shrink the left hand side and create my mutation. I'll say update user, and let's say mutation. We're going to take an object where we'll have our arguments as well as the handler method. So this will be an async function with context as well as the arguments. And now we can go inside of the arguments and get every single one of them. I'll just zoom in. Let's say we will have the name that will be equal to type of string. And we can basically duplicate this twice. This will be the email, and then let's say the clerk ID. Finally, we're gonna have the image, which will be v.string, and you can say v.optional as well. Alright, now in the handler, we would like to get the user. First, I'll say await context.db.query the user's table. We will query a user with our index. So I'll just say dot with index, and our index is called as by clerk ID. So we can say query dot equal to, and then we'll say the clerk ID field that is coming from the arguments, just like that. Then finally, all we want to do is just get the first result, because there will be only one result with this clerk ID. It'll be unique. Then we can say this is the existing user. Now we can go and just say if there is not existing user, you can maybe just return don't do anything. But else we'll just say return await, or maybe let's just delete the return for now. I'll say await context.db.patch. We would like to update this user profile with these arguments. Let's say existing user dot underscore ID. This is the ID that we need to pass. Then the fields that should be updated. So we can say name will be updated with the arguments.name if there is any new value. Email will be the same. It'll be arguments.email, and same for the image. Arguments.image. Now, since the key and value is the same for every single one of them, right? We have image, args.image, email, args.email. Instead of doing all this, we can basically pass the arguments. It'll do the same thing. And finally, you can say return this, or if you wanted to, you can return a success object right below here, like return success of true. But I'll just go with this part. I'll say return this. Alright, let's save and take a look at this part. We don't really have any errors. I think we can basically just go ahead and test this out and check if it's going to update the database. So let's save. We are listening for this event. I'll visit my application, manage account, and I'll update a new profile image. So let me select one from my machine. So I have selected this one. It says uploaded. Let's say cancel now and take a look at the database. So that was the previous image as well, but I'll copy it. I think URL has changed. Previously it was ended with ifq. Now if we take a look at it, it is a different URL. So once again, I'll update with the previous image, just to make sure that it is working completely. So I have selected this one. Here we go. It's been uploaded. Let's take a look at the database. Let's say follow the link. And here we can see it's been updated in the database as well. So that means we are able to listen for this event successfully. And you can double check by taking a look at your Clerk webhooks. Here we can see, I can see the user updated has just came in. We should be able to see it twice because we have changed 2 times, right? Let's see, I will click to this, or even 3 times. So when the first time we sent this event, we were not listening to it, right? At the beginning of this section, but then in the latest 2.1, we tested out with the actual code. Alright, so I think that's gonna be it for this section where we are added another event that is coming from Clerk for the webhook, and also we have fixed any ESLint errors. And next we are going to deploy this application. Now to deploy our application, we are going to create a GitHub repository and push our code to that repository. But first, I would like to check if I have any errors when I built this application. So I'll open up my terminal and maybe we can kill everything. Let's create a new one. Basically, I will say npm run build, because this is the command that would be run when our application is being deployed. If we got any errors in the build step, that means we need to fix it before trying to push our code to GitHub. Alright, it looks like we don't really have any errors. Everything is working as expected. So what I'll be doing is to visit my GitHub account and try to create a new repository. So here for the name, I'll say codeflex_AI or maybe -AI. At the time that I'm recording this video, I'll just set it to be private, and then I'll just scroll to the bottom, just say create repository. If you wanted to, you can go with the public option. That's completely fine. Let's say create a repository, and I'll copy this, right? And then paste it into my terminal. Before that, we need to commit our changes and just make sure that your .env.local file has been ignored, which is something default that is happening, but again, just double check it is under the git ignore file right here. Now we can say git add all and then git commit -m. Let's say something like, I don't know, let's say project completed. Alright, then now that we have our very first commit, we can copy this, paste this in. And this code should be live in our GitHub account. Here we go. Now what we would like to do, just deploy this on Vercel. So I'll go ahead and visit my Vercel account. And then I'll say add a new project. This is the latest one that we have, where it says you just added a new commit. I'll say import. Before we say deploy, we would like to add our environment variables. For this, I'll visit my .env local file and copy everything, then basically paste this in. So we got the Clerk publishable key, secret key, same for the sign-in URLs, and Vapi and Vapi environment variables, as well as for the Convex. So with this, that should be good to go. I'll say deploy the application. This will take about 1 minute or so. Once this is done, I'll just be right back. So here we go. Looks like it has been deployed successfully. I'll say continue to dashboard and try to visit my domain, which is going to be this one. Alright, so the landing page looks correct as we expected. I'll say generate my program, but it'll take me to the sign-in page because I am not authenticated. Let me go ahead and sign up with the exact same account. I'll say authorize Clerk. And here we go, we are just logged in. Now we have some issues here on the side. We can basically visit that specific part of the code and just say, run this completely. This is something that we can do, but let's say start the call and just double check if it is going to work or not.
Hello, Barak. I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm here to help you build a personalized diet and weekly gym workout plan that fits your lifestyle. I'll need to gather some details from you to create something that's truly effective. Are you ready to get started?
Yes, let's go ahead and get started.
Thank you for sharing this information. I'm creating your personalized fitness and nutrition plan right now. You'll be redirected to your profile screen. Just refresh the page in a few seconds to view your complete program. We hope that this program will help you to reach your goals. Have a good day.
Bye. Alright, now the call has been ended. We are redirected to the profile page without any issues. This is the latest one that has been created and it is active. As you can tell, I said I want this to be 6 days, and this is exactly what we got from Monday to Saturday. The Sunday will be our off day. Then we got the Monday with the exercises, and we have the similar exercises for the other days. So these are the things that Gemini has generated for us. And then we can take a look at the diet plan. This is our daily calorie target that we should hit. Then our meals, right, with the related foods. So we have pre-workout, post-workout, dinner, lunch, breakfast, so on and so forth. So I think that's gonna be it for this entire project. We can switch between the fitness plans we can visit our profile screen, which is the one that we are in. We can generate programs and take a look at the home screen. Then finally, we can manage our account, or we can basically sign out. It is working in production without any issues. So that's gonna be it for this entire application. Just one more thing, if you would like to update your AI assistant, you can visit your Vapi dashboard, visit assistants, select our current assistant that we have created, and select the voice. Now, mostly we have used Elliot, but you can definitely change it to someone different, right? And this one is performing really well. Page, I don't know how do you pronounce it correctly, but this is the one that I'd like to test out. So I will say publish my changes. Then you need to visit the workflows, select your workflow, and I think, no, under the assistants, you should say attach a workflow, all right? So you would change the voice, publish it, then under the models, say attach the workflow to CodeFlex. All right, so with this, it should be working out correctly. Let me give you a quick walkthrough, really quick. So previously we had Elliot, now it should be someone different.
Hello, Barack. I hope you're doing well. Today, I'm here to help you build a personalized diet and weekly gym workout plan that fits your lifestyle. I'll need to gather some details from you to create something that's true.
All right, so here we can see it is someone different, and you can just play around with it with different voices. Alright, so that's gonna be it for this entire project. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it and learned something new from it. I would say do not leave this project as it is. Just take a couple of days and add more features as you wish. So with that, I'll see you in the next project.